Where are we at, though? Where are we at is a situation where we have mods. These mods make random nations. I made a whole bunch of them, and I just jump on them when I do a new batch. So we were on seed 6 last time, so I moved over to 7. I don't even know the nations on here. We're going to look through them. You in chat will decide what the most interesting nation to play as will be. Whether I'll do it finger in the air or put it down to vote, I haven't decided yet, but we'll figure it out. But we got to see what there is. And then once we have decided on the nation, we'll make a build for them. So everyone is crammed together here in middle age. It's the most exciting age to play on. I don't care too much for late age, and early age is good, but it's not middle age. So let's take it from the bottom to the top. Just as former Prime Minister of the UK, David Cameron, said, people rising from the bottom to the top has got to stop. But we won't be stopping here. So we'll look at the nations, we'll look at what's on offer with them, what's particularly interesting about them, strengths and weaknesses. And I'll make little notes about... Hang on, there's my notes here. yeah, here we go. I'll keep this as a note for interesting nations that we might come to, because I will forget. And I certainly need their names there. I wish it wouldn't automatically open up all these things. People do not need to know my friends list or what I get up to. Right, so what do we have here? We've got Zensawa, the Mirror Mages. They like things hot, and they're mostly made of primates, so if we want to go full monkey madness, we have this. Even the Scout is an armoured dual wakizashi-wielding murder machine. Surprising for a Scout. Very cheap as well. Regular Commander, regular stuff looking here. These aren't quite Lanka tier monkeys, are they? It's interesting that the mages are the larger, sturdier monkeys here. But of course they don't get armor, they just get sticks and magic. We're looking at astral, nature... Yeah, they got good astral, nature, and water access with possible fire. Yeah, oh, actually possibly very good fire. This gets the rare +2, 100% chance. So it's not untoward that we could even reach fire 3 with these guys. Monkeys don't tend to like fire, but these ones are weird. They're fire resistant. Is that because you have fire? No. Are they all fire resistant? Wow. That opens up some interesting possibilities. Fire resistant units mean you can do things like heat from hell, and burning skies, and not worry about collateral damage on your own units. It's not even minor fire resistance. That is major heat resistance. It's better than major. There's 5, 10, and 15, and they got the big one here. 15 flat reduction of fire damage, plus a 30% reduction. Incredible. Interestingly, we've got chariot knights here that don't trample. But the Cataphract is armored, so we don't worry about that thing dying off too quickly. You've got not amazing protection. He only hit with a katana. Not a very compelling units there. But what is compelling are usually the sacreds. Good idea to look at the flak, because it's interesting to know have they got good defense skills, attack skills, parry, length weapons. What's their general makeup? How expensive are they? The front line of these Vanara-bred champions, for example, wouldn't be particularly impactful, but with 14 protection and a long spear, they're going to get repel checks, they're going to stand for a while, 3 to a square, quite cheap as well. I don't have many problems with that. Oh, what do we have here? The Wakizashi champion's got that extra defense skill, which is relevant, but I'd rather have the repel checks with this guy. Morale is low, though. That's a typical thing with monkeys, low morale. So, you go and look at what the sacreds are. The Blossoming Paladin. Another size 3, good protection, not particularly great skills for your sacred. Strength of the Spring. Increased hit points during the spring season, so about a quarter of your fights you're going to have a more buffed up sacred here. He's got a long spear and he throws axes. Unremarkable overall. This guy, on the other hand, the Plain Retributor. 16 defense skill. Good luck hitting him when he's up on his camel hump. He's freaking ethereal out of the box. Does that apply to the camel? The camel is not ethereal. So maybe people that have played more Dominion 6 than I can chime in on that. If somebody strikes the camel, does it count as a hit? Ignoring ethereal, of course. It probably does. Dominion 6 changed up the mounting stuff, so... That's okay, though. The Plain Retributor is the more important of the two units here. Good luck hitting him anyway with that defense skill. 17 protection on a... Oh, right, they gave male barding to the camel. This is a beefy damn unit. The camel is not fire resistant. Does that matter? Would the camel take fire if the fire resistant rider is still on it? That I don't know. Would be pretty bad actually if the camel caught fire. I wonder if that's an oversight. Might be. Anyway, this is still a beefy unit. The problem is it's not very killy. By which I mean it doesn't kill very well. 16 damage, Wakizashi, not very good attack skill. It would need to be fluffed up. No, if the mount dies, the rider will still exist. And he will fight on without his mount. Quite expensive on recruitment though. But pretty much 100 gold, 46, 41. It'd be very hard to crank these things out wholesale. A recruitable ethereal sacred, great. Minus points for the defense 7 camel. If the camel dies, the whole sacred unit will despawn from the stack. And you get a half price recruit. Yeah, but he will fight on during the fight. At the end, you can get him back from the home, but that's still going to cost you sacred points, I think. If it weren't for the 17 protection of the camel, I'd say it's a very disappointing outcome for a cool premise. Yeah, the camel having barding makes it a lot easier to have around. Unremarkable hit points. Size 5 is pretty good though. It means you can get 2 of these guys to a square, but again, they're not very killy. You would need to fluff these guys up with a bless that makes them able to actually dish out damage. Still, Sacred Ethereal out of the bat is pretty good. So what would these guys be doing? Getting some good astral spells down. I'm not sure what one could do with water. Some quickening, perhaps. Nature is a great thing to have access to. These things are hard enough to hit, so also having them regenerate sounds cool, but it wouldn't regenerate for that many hit points. What about this though? We've actually got Tiger Chariots too. Again, it doesn't trample. And again, the chariot is not fire resistant. Might have to look into that at some point. Still, interesting premise with the monkey guys. So fire monkeys are at the bottom. Then we got over to Shetta. More scions, this time master mages, as opposed to mirror mages. I think the name is just randomly picked, but possibly reflecting on what they have here. It's the pale ones. I forget if I play often enough with pale ones. I love their ohms, but only if they can do their infinite range stun attack, which these guys cannot. We've got fire, death, and blood. I love death, but I think I have to swear off of Wraith Lords these days. I always use Wraith Lords. People always call me out on my Wraith Lord usage, so maybe I can deign not to go Wraith Lords. Pale ones are pretty cool because they tend to be very good at tearing down walls. They've got the siege bonus. They don't need to eat, so you don't end up with problems invading places that have low supplies, no population. You don't have to make them endless buckets of stew or loads of wine to keep them on the warpath. Downside is they tend to have pretty low skills. Look at that. That's lower attack and defense skill than you'd expect out of a freaking light infantry or militia. But when they hit, emphasis on when, they hit pretty hard. They're quite durable. They usually wear some decent non-metallic armor. Well, bronze is a metal, right? But it's not iron. Iron weapons and things are subject to rust and decay, especially when fighting underwater. What is this thing? They got a little pygmy champion. An invulnerable pygmy. What would you do with these guys? Well, you'd wince at how easy they are to kill, but I suppose you could put up fire and have them do a lot of short bowing stuff. They don't really cost anything. But they also can't siege to save their lives. What would you do with these pygmies? I don't know. They're not the main thing here, though. What is this, though? They've got some humans here. Humans running around mauls. Humans that are good at patrolling and have dark vision with their mauls. Pygmy army run went. I did pygmies once and it went so badly. I was scarred by how badly my pygmy run went. Everyone died very quickly. Just couldn't get them to live in combat because pygmies have almost no health. Any hit just kills them. And you can buff up protection, but then they just hit you with a big fire spell and your whole unit dies. Scary stuff. So what do we have? We've got Cave Drake riding pale ones here. Trying their best to do something about the god-awful stats of a pale one. This is fairly... Well, it's not even that tanky at protection 12. Cave Drake itself is much more protection at 22. But it is slow, it doesn't kill very hard, it doesn't defend very well. Not taken by their Drake champions. What about the Black Avenger? This is our sacred unit for the pale ones. One thing worth noting is that these pale ones, they can go in water and on land, and they're not negatively impacted by either. Except, of course, fire magic and projectiles don't work so good underwater. This guy throws boulders. It actually does a boulder impact, AoE 1 for not insignificant damage. He carries 5 big boulders to lob, so this guy could stand behind a front line of squishy whatevers, throw his boulders and then engage with his hammer. And for a pale one, he has a surprisingly good attack skill at 13. So he hits something with his hammer, which must be a bladed hammer because it's piercing and blunt damage. He could do some serious damage. Problem with this guy, he doesn't live very long. 55 health is one thing, but he is not wearing any armor apart from a bronze hat. So this guy could easily get shanked to death. He's a lot of recruitment points, but not a lot of resources. And the way I see it, I'd rather these two things are fairly close together because it's hard to have significantly more of one than the other. Unless you're surrounded by caves, I suppose. And being pale ones, maybe we would be. Those are magic weapon AoE boulders. I don't think they're magical. They certainly don't look magical. It's just special effect. Oh, but we could add magical weapons to it. That's probably what you're getting at. Then anything plentiful and ethereal gets squished by the boulder impact. Interesting. I often find magic weapons quite expensive for what you do. Isn't it for astral? These guys, they got blood, they got death, they got fire. Those are some good cross paths. Could probably bring back Anthrax with that. Good general here, though. Inspirational +1 sacred guy, but again, no armor. At least this guy could put armor on. Wow, one recruitment point, 9 resources, decent gold cost. Fairly cheap. You know, this guy, I wonder if you could thug this guy up. To what end, though? You mostly want him for his leadership stat here. Our Chock-a-Block mage here. Just checking costs around here. The costs of just about everything got buffed up in Dominion 6. So my usual benchmark of good amounts and bad amounts are a bit skewing. So the weak water access, somewhat weak. Another +2 on this though. So we've got some powerful but aggressively expensive mages here. Or we've got, man, even this guy's pretty cheap though. 55, upkeep 44, blood 1. So you could definitely go blood hunting and do blood things with these guys. But their rank and file seem pretty poor. You spawn a Fire Ellie Ob Death? You have lost me, Handball. Right, that's Setha. Not overly won over by those people. Cost tells me nothing. I don't know what the economy is like. You make money from all the provinces you have, and there are many ways to make it large and small, so it's very hard to say until you're into the game how things are going to go. Check the text on the holy unit. Here we go. They will explode as a burst of elemental energy upon death, spawning a fire elemental. I wonder what size it is. Because there's a big difference between a tiny one and a big one. Fire elemental could cause real harm to your own front lines, though, because those things have heat aura, and we don't have heat resistance. Although there's a way to give heat resistance. I forget if that's a fire magic, but I think it's also a water magic, maybe? Anyway, not super won over by those guys. Aites, kind of godly, larger-than-life individuals here. They seem to come out of the gate with poison resistance. Aites, Vanir's, heat scales, they like it warm. They've got nature blood with weak death. I'm not overly familiar with what nature blood cross paths there are. Death, nature, loads of nature. I love nature. Because it gives you gift of health, it gives you regeneration, gives you some awesome spawns. It's very easy to get Mother Oak. There's a lot of great, easy things to do with nature, which is why I tend to pivot into it one way or another. As someone new to the game, can you explain why the randomizer feature is so important to you? Yes, Ubiquitous. This game features a lot of different nations. You've got Pangea, these rampaging centaurs and minotaurs that are all about blood and nature and killing and having loads and loads of really nasty forest sex. And then you've got people like these magma-born individuals. They live and die by the fire, but they burn bright and short. They don't live very long. And they end up crossbreeding with humans that makes their whole race die out. There's a big, thick, juicy load of lore and gameplay difference between all the different nations that there are in the game. But even so, after playing a lot of the game, I finally went, you know, once you've battled Ulm 5 times, you kind of know what you're dealing with. And once you've played with Ermor a few times, you don't really want to play with Ermor again. I want more. And the randomizer came in and took all the thousands of different mechanical bells and whistles that the game has and just throws them into a blender, and then out pops whatever. And I really like dealing with that whatever. You could consider the Randomizer Dominion 6 as the Snecko Eye of strategy games. And you know my feelings about Snecko Eye. So yeah, the game is already amazing, but I've clocked many hundreds of hours on Dominions 5 vanilla. And it was the randomizer that brought the game back in for me. Playing without the randomizer now just doesn't tickle my bits anymore. Need the rando. You highly overrated. Is that what you're getting out of Snecko? My Snecko win rate is very high. Compare it with my Sozu win rate, which I'm not sure exists. Right, so we're looking at the Aites here. The Nature, the Weak Death. Ivy Lord. I've never put Ivy Lord to use because I don't rate Vine Men particularly highly. Whenever I fight them, I seem to kill them quite easily, so I don't reckon I want them around. Look at those guys. They have command over insects. They will be defended by large beetles in each battle. That might not be bad if they ever get assassinated, but I'd like a bit more assurances on a 440 gold massive mage guy that we have. I think it's pretty good as is. What kind of units are we looking at? Bear-mounted Morningstar wielding Vindicators. They can attack and defend castles quite well. They naturally regenerate. Their bear doesn't, but the rider does. Regeneration with decent hit points. Good protection. Good skills. Pretty high costs, but not completely disagreeable. The main problem with these guys is it's 1 to a square with only 1 attack, so they don't particularly excel at killing things. However, the bear attacks as well. A bear is attacking our people. So this guy could work pretty well on sieges, and he could work on the front line. He could hold the front line, that's for sure. Defense skill 14, protection 18, a shield, good size, regenerating. Imagine a front line of these guys. And I am imagining a front line of these guys. What's our alternative for front line? Defense skill 13, non-regenerating elite skirmishers. Significantly cheaper. I could have a lot of them in the same price for a bear. Mace over a Morningstar. These guys can live a long time, though. Vine Lord is useful for Vine Ogres, Jake. The Ogres are great late-game HP soaks. Yeah, late game doesn't hold much of an appeal for me in terms of strategizing, because late game, you can do anything in this game. Eventually, you'll have access to all magic paths and an economy that can do anything. And against AIs, that's not a particularly compelling thing, and I don't do a lot of human-involved Dominions gaming, unless it's cooperative, of course, but even then I prefer it against the AI. So I'm interested in what can be done in the early and mid-game. Oh, hello, we have Glamorous Van Heerds. These guys are a pain to fight against. Massive defense skill. Terrifying defense skill, in fact. Which makes their protection not even a big deal, but could we perhaps get the Fair Rangers out? Negative death power, meaning these guys are even stronger in growth scales. The Fey Horse hit with hooves. The Fey Horses are smart and will return. If the rider dies, they will go home, and then you can get a half-price new unit. They don't get disease, they have true sight, they see through glamour. They have glamour. Again, that sacred tag, very agreeable cost except for the recruitment points. That's obnoxiously expensive. But yeah, riding in with that battle axe, these guys could be a really good flank. Imagine a front line of regenerating bears and you get smashed on the flank by these guys. They need some fluffing up to be a bit more killy, but this is quite interesting. What do we do with nature and blood, though? Do we have a simple blood mage who can go and do blood harvesting for us? This is as basic as we get, so there's no cheap... Yeah, there's no cheap way to do blood harvesting. This wouldn't be particularly cheap because I'd be wasting a nature mage on this. Blood nature being our only thing here, so I might not want to lead into the blood so hard, but what else do these guys have? It's just nature and blood. How do we check magic again? Isn't there a hotkey for magic? Maybe there is not. Still interesting though, I'd have to think hard about what to do with these guys. I will make a note of these. This could be one of the guys we consider. How do you even spell the name of that? It's difficult to read. I wish they wouldn't make their font like this, because I find this difficult to read. Is that Zishdod? There's another way to read it, isn't there? Yeah, there we go. Zishdod. Zishdod. Blood, nature. Avites, regenerating bears, glamorous Fey Riders. Worth noting. No, it's not Fish Dad Eat. Alright, we'll keep note of those guys. I think there are 30 nations to go through. 30? This doesn't look like 30. It looks more like 25 or so. Anyway, we'll go through them and make a decision at the end. Pohnum, the Choir Epic. Ah, Itchitids. Itchitids are typically a very weak race. They're kind of like Gobbos in Battle Brothers in quite a way. As in, kind of weak, kind of annoying. They run up and net you and then run away. What do we have here? Lots and lots of magical access. Nature, fire, water, astral, death, glamour, blood. National mages are not affected by drain scale. What is this? Ulmite Itchitids? Let's have a look. This is our biggest, baddest, most awesome mage. He's a 3 nature with +2 and +1. So a lot of nature cross-pathing going on. Nature at the gate. A level 3 priest out the gate. Level 3 is kind of a big deal. Level 3 means mass blessing, and it also means claiming thrones without needing my pretender god or having to get my the other one, prophet, and not having to, say, make an air gem and give it to a bishop fish. Yeah, this is a lot of words that probably don't make a lot of sense to people that don't play, but they're considerations. And there's a lot of information. You have to pick up what can work for you. I'm by no means a great player of Dominions. I've got a few hundred hours, and that doesn't mean all that much. It's like saying you're a great Spire player after a couple hundred hours. Okay, maybe. This means taking Drain Scale is a no-brainer for extra points, which is a pretty big deal, provided that applies to all of our mages. Ugh, they're inept researchers despite the unhindered nature. So actually, they're pretty bad at researching. Yeah, look at this guy. Only 10 on this guy. Well, it'll be 11, 12, maybe a bit more. Are they affected by a boost, though? It says Drain Scale, but I think magic would still boost them. Still, you want to go down just for the extra points. Oh yeah, there's a good point. Even though he's a bit crap, he is only a 60 gold cost, 48 upkeep mage. That's practically Dominion's 5 costs right there. He's blind, but he doesn't need to see. Somnicids are a race of sharkmen, typically dwell along frozen coastlines in the black depths. That explains the cold resistance. They age and move slowly. They have toxic flesh. Coming into contact with this will give you poison. It affects the victim, stiffens them, makes them immobile. Although less so for large one. That's also poison skin 20. That's quite a lot of poisonous skin. Pragmatic matters. They research effectively, even lands with little magic. Love pragmatism. There we go, with the fire, the death, the glamour. I still don't know how to use glamour particularly well, but this is interesting. Our mages have resource bonus. So that means if we stack a lot of mages in one place, we do a lot of recruitment. We could recruit particularly heavily armored individuals without suffering for it. Also, you are a temple trainer? This priest can train a sacred being in a temple, but what? What do they train? Normally it tells you. It says sacred being. I doubt that means we get a time marauder out of it. Mysterious. You have the sage pretender for +1. Spam those guys out cheap. The text says it's a serpent. Where did it say serpent? I'm not doubting you, I'm just wondering where I didn't see it. Temple training. Can train a sacred temple. Maybe in here. Ah, serpent taming and healing arts. Look at that healer. Okay, so these guys are probably not all that great in combat, and their magic paths, well, it's a lot of nature, but not a lot of offensive stuff. But it looks like they have a lot of auxiliary things going for them. We need to see what their front line could be. I'm looking ideally for somebody that costs a lot of resources and not a lot of recruitment points, so some lumbering idiot in heavy armor. The heavy net spearmen, seems like they've all got toxic flesh. So if I can find ones that are nice and tanky on the front line, anyone attacking them is going to get paralyzed. Unless they're giants, of course. 3 to a square is also good, so I want someone with a lot of protection. Why are there so few resources and so high recruitment points? That's the opposite of what I want. Looks like bone armor doesn't count a lot in terms of resources. I get supply bonus out of my rank and file. Is that the case for all of them? That's phenomenal. So they still need to eat. I forget where it says what they eat. I mean, size cost into us. Here we go. Okay, I always forget where it shows what they need to eat. But you know, you eat based on your size, but they're going to give me a rebate on that, which is pretty awesome. Does protection stop the enemy from being poisoned? No. No, it does not. Pretty sure the only way to resist poison is with some kind of poison resistance, or by being large enough that poisonous skin doesn't affect you so much. I don't think long weapons even help you against poisonous skin. Don't know though, I don't play with poisonous skin very often. Gosh, none of these guys cost a lot of resources. It's feeling like a bit of a waste to get the resource rebate, but maybe I can find some generic units like heavy cavalry that I could make in a place. Cataphracts would be even better. Something that costs a lot of resources and we can make use of the mage for. Anyway, in terms of our sacreds, it's just this guy. 14 protection. We've got better protection on our other units. Look at this rank and file. Yeah, they all cost a lot of resource points, though. Suspiciously large. I don't get anyone that's cheap on recruitment points. Anyway, the Time Marauder is more expensive than the rest. He bites. He's got a stone spear of exceptional quality. He's Pillager, which isn't something I'd ever really make use of. Pillaging and looting provinces, not something I tend to do. Bronze, shark skin, turtle shell spear. Kind of crappy stats. He doesn't have a net like the other guys, though. This guy is kind of rubbish. But that just means we could save money on the Bless, or save points on the Bless, and make an awesome, otherwise functional army. But the stats on these Ichitids are really low across the board. Nobody's got good attack or defense skill. I think we'll choose our enemies as well, Alexander. Normally I just go for random enemies, but since we're seeing them, I'll happily let chat choose who we fight against. I'm not sold on these guys because it seems very hard to actually make them kill anything in combat. And with low defense skill, they're going to take those hits. Protection 18, hit points 18 seems hard to make work. Check the Temple Serpent on the Inspector. I think it is Sacred 2. I knew somebody would force me to bring out my beloved Dom 6 Inspector tool. I'm not sponsored by this tool, but if I was, I'd happily take it. I have no idea what they'd pay me with, though. Let's see if we can bring that up. Is such a thing even possible? I'm willing to say yes. So we're looking for a Sacred Serpent. Here's our Sacred Serpent friend. I assume it's this one. I don't have this mod. I don't have the mod files loaded in for this, and I can't remember how to do that. But here they are. Sacred, Animal, Cold-Blooded, Swamp Survival, good attack skill, pathetic defense skill, doesn't regenerate, does resist poison, hits with venomous fangs that do 15 poison, 7 protection, decent. So I could certainly make a bless based around these rather than based around our lackluster recruit capital sacred. I assume they're capital recruitment. Unless it's this serpent? It did specifically say Sacred Serpent, right? I'm going to have to check that. Where are you? Table Trainer. Trained in Serpent Taming and Healing Acts. So which serpent is it? Because this is another one that's a Sacred Serpent. There's also an Armored Serpent, but I highly doubt it's these guys. The Sacred Serpent could be summoned by Ithus. Yeah, it might well be them. If you keep up the temple summoning, you get those for free every turn. Yes, I do. Never count it free, though. It still costs a turn for our mages. A mage turn, if you will. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can actually load in the mod for the Inspector tool. I always forget how this is done. Where are my Dominions files, anyway? Local roaming Dominion 6 mods NationGen Seed 7. I think. And then from there I need the NationGen DM file. Will you work for me? Is such a thing even possible? Hang on, let's see if we can bring it back up. Now, if this works, maybe I can find the nation here. Hey, that looks a lot like it's working. What's the name of this nation we're looking at right now? It's called Pohnum. Pohnum, the choir epic. And then the unit was called the Senior Exarch. Actually, the Fledgling Exarch, so either of the Exarchs will do it. Fledgling and Senior Exarch. The graphics won't load on this, but that's not a problem. Temple Summon is a Hydra Hatchling. That is sacred. But the hatchlings, when it comes to Hydras, are a bit rubbish. Yeah, look at that. Size 4, protection 4. Yeah, this I think is even worse than the sacreds. However, the serpents. However, these guys should have regeneration. Yeah, 10% regeneration. Do they have the poisonous fumes around them? Yeah, they do Poison Cloud. That begs the question, could I do a poison build with these guys? Getaway Inspector. No, because they do not have inherent poison resistance. This guy does, but that's because of his nature magics. Invulnerability Bless and off you go? No, because poison will seep through that. And that would hurt the rank and file quite a lot. Then again, don't we have water and nature access? I could actually do a build that involves a lot of poison. It's a lot more work to make this work than, say, using Cetus for it. But yeah, Foul Vapors, Quagmire could certainly work for these guys. Oh, you mean an Invulnerability Bless for the Hydra? That would be very expensive for a very lackluster unit. Given that currently I'm not really seeing any Bless I want for these people, unless it's stuff that helps our Sacred Mages, of which we don't have a lot. I'm not sold on these guys. They're interesting, but I can't easily see something that works well for them. So I will shelve that idea and move along to Ithsus or Ithsus. Don't know if that's an I or an L. Looks like an I, so Ithsus. Humans and lizards coming together in glorious harmony. Light infantry, heavy infantry, champions, sacred light infantry. Not usually my favorite sacreds. I like my sacreds big and buff. Anyway, we've got Earth and Astral. What are we working with here? Scout with lots of throwing axes. Interesting guy. How much ammo do you have in those? 2. So he can lob 4 throwing axes at you with very low precision. Good to do into a crowd, though. An old but good formation fighter, High Chieftain. Interesting. Completely generic-looking priest here. But he's cheap, and cheap is usually what you want out of level 1 priests. You don't tend to care much more than that. Probably wouldn't bother with level 2 unless I absolutely had to kill undeads. Here we go. A neophyte. A surprisingly expensive neophyte for a guy that just came out of the shower. But with a lot of varying paths here. We've got guaranteed earth with more air, more astral, more glamour put into the blender. We've got the air together with the earth, an air shield of pathetic value, but sacred usually means cheaper upkeep, but man, the upfront costs on these guys. It's just earth with various different cross paths, and then we get to our big beefy guys. Oh, hello, look at this guy. 2 earth, 2 astral, so we're talking that special coin thing right out of the gate to boost. Is that an earth or an astral booster? I forget. With even more coming in, so we can easily have 3 nature, 3 air, or not 3 air, 3 earth, 3 astral. Then again, these guys can do it already. Heck, even these guys can do 3 earth. How about my lower down guys? Yeah, 3 earth is rare, but possible. Quite a lot of expense associated with these guys, so do we have rank and file that can last long enough for that? Hey Chicken Chat, any goals for this run? Winning would be nice, but we're not going to start the actual fighting until a future stream. I definitely won't have time to do any meaningful stuff in Dominions tonight. We're having a good old-fashioned Design the Nations stream tonight, and we will play with it later. Fairly standard-looking infantry here, although I tend to like tridents. They're long, stabby. But lizards. Lizards are cool. They're cold-blooded, so they really shrivel up and die when fighting in the cold. They get way too much fatigue. 8 endurance, but look at that. 20 protection wielding a greatsword. These guys are like barbarians, but they don't suck. They cost resources instead of recruitment points, which is easier to mitigate. They're dirt cheap. Oh my lord, only 8. You'd think these guys were slaves. Alright, so the Lizard Sword Champion, despite his mediocre stats, could be a pretty interesting shock troop. What else we got here? It's a funny mixture of shock troops and good frontline holders here. Much better with the defense, courtesy of that shield there. Any resource suppliers? Didn't notice any. There doesn't seem to be anything fancy about our mage corps outside of this one guy having air shield, and air shield of 30 is a waste of time. Spears, discuses, tower shields, again, good with the frontline rank and file. Very affordable. So a fairly affordable human shield wall is an idea. I wish they had more protection than 7, though. 5 is not more than 7. We've got the standard. He can boost the morale. Morale seems to be a problem with this nation. Here we go. These guys are old as sin, but they do formation fighting. How old? 55. Protection 13 is what I was looking for, and defense skill 15 is pretty good. And these guys 4 to a square would be reasonable. So I know it's 4 to a square because of this. If everyone has this formation fighter in the square, they can fit up to this more in a square. The standard is 10, 3 is 13, they're size 3. So get 4 of them, that'll be size 12 into a square. So we could actually have the old man army here. Not only that, they're mace-wielding old men. That's not particularly impressive or killy, but 4 to a square, defense 15, protection 13 can certainly hold the line for a while. Because that high defense skill means most hits are going to hit the shield, and the shield will give an additional 16 protection. That's a big deal. You're unlikely to get through that, but this isn't be-all and end-all. A high attack skill will pierce through that, destroy that protection, and kill their wimpy human amount of hit points. Actually, standard human hit points is 10, so 12 is actually quite good. That's almost Ulmite levels. Yeah, the idea of having the old man army does appeal to me a fair bit. The standard, unfortunately, is not a formation fighter, so I won't be able to squeeze him in, but these guys already have morale 13. Okay. Sometimes humans can seem a bit boring, but human frontline, lizard shock troops? Actually, is this guy better? You're losing defense skill significantly. What's the difference here? I would have an easier time if I saw this on the inspector screen, but that might not be so clear for you. There's a difference here. They both got protection 20. Both got the same hit points. Same magic resistance, same morale. The Claymore guy loses 2 defense skill. And he's a little bit faster in combat. 28 to 25. He's cheaper as well. I don't mind losing a defense skill because he's garbage at defense anyway. I think the difference is he's getting full chainmail instead of a plate hauberk. And I'll be honest, I don't know what the difference is there. It seems to both be protection. Ah, the encumbrance is slightly down, I think. Yeah, so he can fight for a little longer. Very, very small difference between the two, but I'd probably take the cheaper one, which is, of course, this guy. Besides, rushing in with a claymore instead of a great sword, that 1 extra damage could matter quite a bit. So yeah, these guys as a shock troop for the old man frontline army. What about you guys? Our star guards, our sacreds. Incredible skills for a human. 12 of stack skill isn't really incredible, but defense skill 18, that's a great hide shield for you. They're good bodyguards. They work really well outside of chaos power, so these guys would actually get a +3 bonus to this stuff if they fight inside order. That's really only +2, but still, that's significant. This is a significant problem, though. Protection 5. Ugh, man. Get hit by something that the defense doesn't negate, and these guys will crumble. Hit points are unremarkable. Recruitment costs are quite high, so their sacred is a bit bleh. Forts produce 10% more resources. But we don't particularly need resources, do we? Well, actually, the old men want resources. So this would be the old man army. We'd be having just these guys on the front line and then these guys on the flanks. Try and chop up the flanks with great swords. It's not particularly exciting, so I need to think long and hard about what could be done to augment it. We have air, so Draconians could fly back row and harass. I love Draconians. Excellent use of air gems in my opinion, because they can infinitely expand and they don't cost you upkeep. They are hungry buggers though, and they do rout and die easily. No, I've not played Griftlands. It doesn't look particularly appealing. I mean, it looks like yet another Slay the Spire clone, and my standard for that is if it's not at least as good as Slay the Spire, why would I bother? And I have not heard an answer for that regarding Griftlands. I'm going to make a note of this. I don't think the nation is actually that interesting, but I do have a penchant for an army of old men, especially after running Banner Saga. The heck are you called again? Ithsus. Ithsus. Old men plus lizard shock troops with claymores. Oh, I should make note of the magic paths. Let me think. It was air, earth, glamour, something. Earth, astral, air, glamour. Earth, astral, air, glamour. Astral is S, to not confuse it with air, which is A. I think in one of my previous runs, what was it? It was like fire, air, glamour, astral or something, so I put in fags, and somebody didn't particularly like the title of the video, but that's their problem and definitely not mine. Right, Akato, Rise of the Great Clove. Kalins, I do not often play with Kalians, because I played with them once in a multiplayer and it didn't go well for us. Got brutalized due to a lack of a bless, but what do we have here? What we have is Transplanner Sarge popping into chat saying, I've been loving your Satisfactory long play. It was randomly recommended to me on my feed. It's been brilliant. As a Satisfactory veteran, I've been hooked all the way. Sorry for the wall of text. Yeah, I'm usually weak to lots of words, but they were short and easy to understand. But you're very welcome, Sage. I've been highly enjoying Satisfactory, and already looking forward to getting back to more of it tomorrow. Not that I've touched the factory much in a wee while, but the exploration loop in that game is similarly great. It's not what we're here for right now, though. It's time to look at these angel people. Heavy infantry, champions, sacred heavy infantry. They've got air, they've got nature, weak fire, water, astral. So they've got paths. Their priests are weak. I don't mind weak priests. Whoa, especially when they've got divine insights. Also, they have an improved research ability in Lands of Sloth. So, well, with research ability 1, I'm not so sure I want these guys doing a lot of divine insights. However, well, I was going to say, however, they're cheap. They're not cheap at 155. So there's a strategy here of having massive amounts of sloth and then having your priests just laying back and doing all the research for you. But at base 1 research ability, now you could boost that with sloth and magic. Imagine magic 2 or 3, sloth 2 or 3. Suddenly you've got between 5 and 7 magic. It doesn't cost you mages. Oh, but these are recruitment point 2 as well. These high priests are a mockery. They do know Lightning Strike, though. Holy heck, Lightning Strike can ruin your day. Especially if it's being cast by freaking statues. Anyway, priests aside, what are we looking at? Flying scouts are always extremely welcome. Map move 28 flying. And this guy also does katana, Lightning Strike. He even has leather armor. Not bad. An awestruck leader, not all that impressive. Leadership 100. Wait a second, I just noticed the high priest. He's actually the high priestly leader. Leadership 150 is +2 morale for the squad. That is awkward. This guy's trying to do a lot of things in one, which isn't very good. You usually want units that specialize, and then you work with a specialization. Contrary to that would be situations where you have a thug that has magic to cast on itself and does all other thuggy things, but you wouldn't say you want your thug to research. Oh gosh, once again we have the chief being the priest being the leader. Who said these were weak priests? These are swole priests. Iron cap, samurai armor, katana, lightning strike, inspirational, 150 leadership. He gets stronger in growth, He's got really good stats. I can see why he's recruitment point 2 now. So, gosh, you can almost thug these guys up if only they had some magic paths going here. Scipio says, terrible. If it was half that cost and 1 RP, then I could see the argument, but the research is terrible. Instead, I see them as a valuable far shot with an air bless. That's a weapon. It means you take 1 to 2 air blessings for range. You can hit them from the back of the map. Less a researcher, more of a thug. Yeah, that's what my thought is transitioning into here. Still don't think that's a particularly good way to go about it, but the wonderful thing about playing Dominions is you don't have to super turbo min-max. The best thing you can do is Dominions. The best thing you can do in Dominions, rather, if I don't trip over my own words, is think of something that sounds fun and do it. You might win, you might die, but it's far more enjoyable that way than trying to squeeze out every little advantage, especially playing against the AI. The AI is not particularly smart. If the AI does something that looks impressive, it's a complete accident that it ever happened. Unless a nefarious human designed your AI opponent, then it can get really oppressive. Who was it who made the +10 strength undying flagellants for middle-aged Marignon? Fighting against that was ultra cancer, because those troops are dirt cheap, recruit anywhere sacreds, and you just get drowned out by multi-hitting, massive hitting flails. Ugh, horrible times. But interesting. So we were looking at these guys. There's the chieftain. What about the mages? Ooh, nice cheap Air 1 mage. I love air magic because it's very offensive. You bring in air mages, you bring up a storm, you give them air power, and suddenly they're lightning striking the entire enemy army. I have a particular battle in my old VODs that I go back to and watch periodically because it's just a masterclass of that. We were under massive siege. I summoned all of my mages to a single place. And I believe between mechanical flies and low-level air mages, we obliterated the enemy into cinders. Loved that fight. Interesting. Air nature. I don't know what cross paths that could be, but cross paths are hard to remember. Storm immune is also interesting. Also, Air 2 is really interesting. Get air power, suddenly you're at Air 3. Air 3 is really good for landing all those lightning strikes. What's not very happy is that they don't have a lot of armor. So these guys will die massively to projectiles, but that's what the storm is for. Storms wipe out 75% of projectiles. That 2 protection is very sad, though. Who gave the priests all the armor? Stole it from my mage core. What does the goat symbol mean? It means that they're... no, let's not make that joke. It means they have mountain survival. This creature has a reduced movement penalty. They can just handle mountains better than others. That said, they fly, so the movement penalty isn't really there for them. I don't tend to care much about the survival stuff, except forest survival. Forest survival is very good, because forests are plentiful, so not having a movement penalty going through them can really help you run 2 or 3 provinces where enemies are only running 1. Alright, here's our big daddy. He can get 4, lucky 5 in air, so it'd be very easy to buff up 5 and get big air summons, get the Queen of Elemental Air going. And yeah, as expected, we get a lot of air gems. And the Furious Consort is capital only. But that means that our sacred units here, the front line, are not capital only. It's recruit anywhere. Avenging Warden is not a sacred, but I'm loving all the lightning strike that we're seeing here. Doesn't do massive damage in an area, but lightning is armor negating. I mean, if you get struck by it, it doesn't matter how much protection you have. I always like building ultra-powerful one-man army godlings, but eventually you always run into something that your kryptonite and die, yeah, absolutely, Garrick, and that makes it more mortifying when you pour 100 gems into a guy, give him the best gear, and then someone comes along with a great sword of sharpness magical weapon and just cuts through you and kills you. Or they disease you and you die because you forgot about poison resistance, or you didn't have magic resistance for somebody just soul-slaying you. What I often say in this game is that every build, no matter what you build, there is a counter, and the counter is always cheaper than whatever you put in to make that unit. So multiplayer is all mind games. Here's our sacred frontliner, or backliner. You know, he's in the army. Once again, he's got that death power negative, so that means he gets stronger in growth scales. His skills are lackluster. I'm seeing a lot of lackluster here. They love their katanas and lightning striking. No shield, not a particularly good defense skill. This is not a very good or exciting sacred. So it's probably better to not invest in much of a bless and instead pour everything into making your nation as rich as possible and enjoying just casting down air magic. So it seems pretty simple in one note here. There definitely are interesting things you could do with this nation, but what they lean heavily into is flying around in storms and casting down air magic. And of note, we do have shock resistance on our guys here, so it's not a problem that you might accidentally shock your own units with your mages. Also, what the heck's this? Limited recruitment 1 per turn on everyone? Almost everyone. The non-1 per turn guys are these champions, composite bows and bronze hatchets. But you don't want to have bow users when you have your storm up. Storm immune means that they are unaffected, but not their projectiles. I'm pretty sure the projectiles still get messed up. Mind you, look at that dual Morningstar wielding guys. Long spear is rather good. With that kind of attack skill, this guy could be a repel wizard. I see a use for this guy, but I'm not sure it's particularly exciting. So that's Akato. I'm not sure I'll make a note of them. Let's look over at Ashani, the Sacrificial Veil. Oh, hey, it's non-hatchling Hydra. Interesting. It's the Kalians again. They like them cold, as they often do. Fire, air, earth. Light infantry, heavy infantry, champion, sacred light ranger, heavy ranger. So we could, once per turn at 200 gold, recruit a Hydra. Now, Hydras don't like fire, but they're pretty resistant to most other things. They give fear, they give out poisonous clouds. Even if you slice off one of their heads, they will grow back over time. Even if you blind it or cripple it, it will get better. It regenerates, it's got a ton of hit points, its protection is much better than a hatchling, and its skills are pretty good. It's also unsurroundable. Often when you have a big nasty opponent like this, if you just surround it with crummy units, it will get harassed and then it will lose its ability to defend. But not this guy, unsurroundable, also undisciplined. It's like you, says Crappy Medium. Does a lot of attacks with poison, and then one big attack with very strong poison. But that poisonous cloud could be a problem. It's also not sacred, which is a bit sad. Would be nice to buff that thing up. Also quite expensive, so you'd want the Dosh. Storm Power. Sacred Commanding Champion. Wait, why are you always way over at the right? Because you're capital only for some reason. Inspirational +1 with 100 leadership. Good leader. The Scout Assassin who doesn't fly. Flight has its own benefits and makes Kalian armies quick and unpredictable. The wingless are misshapen, scorned Kalians born without wings. They are frail, have little tolerance to the cold. They're ferocious fighters who do not falter in the face of an often welcomed death. Remember, this is Randomizer spitting these out for us. I know it just takes lines that exist in the game already, but I really like the way that you get a somewhat sensible lore strung together for the nations. Skilled in assassination, stealthily ambush enemy commanders in single combat and resistant to fire. The trouble is these guys aren't very good in a fight. So they would make pretty terrible assassins unless they're taking out mages, and even then, a Fire 1 mage would eliminate this guy. So a bit of a waste of a unit right there. Inspirational, less inspirational, but we've got an Inquisitor here. Priest level doubled for preaching against enemy faiths, good for preaching down enemy capitals, very, very cheap. 28 upkeep, 60 front-loaded cost on a flying mage. Fire, shock, cold resistant, flying Inquisitor. This guy's good. Not in combat, god no, but overall he's quite good. Then we get a stronger version of him with the Red Eye Fortune Teller. He can prevent bad events. He'll stop your capital from having its walls crumble and its laboratory explode. Getting to the mages, we've got the 2 air, air earth. Air fire, air water, cross paths. Old men here. Gravitational personal shaper. Interesting, but not concerning. What about our sacred here? They're overcharged. Struck with an electric discharge. Unleashed, damaging and stunning the attacker if they get hit. I don't know what the 2 means. I think that's a value of the power of it or the amount of times it happens. Probably the value of it. Storm Power once again, Composite Bow in the Sacred, and again lackluster stats. I'm not overly sold by the Kalians, but that's a common way I look at these guys. I don't tend to rate them very highly. Kalians are mostly made for having lackluster Sacreds but really good scales, so you crank them out massively. Yeah, I don't know what's so sneaky and assassiny about using a flail as your weapon. Seems bizarre. Fire, air, earth. Once again, I'm not overly won over by these Kalians. What about Onmark? Well, somebody was asking if we'd do another midgets run, and these are certainly midgets. They are midgets that ride around on giant rats. Giant, disease-resistant, undisciplined yet stealthy rats that want to eat a lot of food. They have pathetic hit points, mediocre protection, low skills except for defense. But the rat's defense is pretty low, so you hit the rat dies, and then the champion himself dies pretty quickly. He wields a hammer that doesn't do a lot of damage, and he costs a lot for something that's pretty rubbish. I wish these guys were appealing in some way, but they die so easily to anything. Regeneration 10, that means 1 hit point a turn. They're not going to live long enough for that to be relevant. They don't have any resistances that are compelling. I wish Habsburgs were better. Evil hobbitses. Got a herdman here. Light armor, various weapon. Glamour is good. Stealthy is not particularly good against AI. Could the Ancient Knight be the only good unit we have here? Because all these guys are just pretty terrible. Oh, we've even got an undead ghoul. Well-drilled professional troops clad in light armor and fighting with various weapons, native to the woodlands and dead. 100-year-old midget that nobody's stepped on. One benefit to the midgets is you'll get 5 of them to a square. So imagine these five of these battle axes chipping away at you. That would actually be significant if they could land a hit with attack skill 10. And they've got slings as well. Slings? That's not going to do much out of these guys. That said, that's a lot of cheap slings to a square. Maybe not that cheap. If you could put a Fire Bless on these guys, those slings could really ruin someone's day. Alright, you are the only hope for this unit, not this army, not to be completely a waste of time. Fairly generic knight on a unicorn. Is that a unicorn? It's called Fey Horse. Surely that's a unicorn. Very standard, unsurprising, except for that low protection. So overall, this nation looks really bad, and we haven't even looked at the commanders. Blood, nature, air, earth, death. Inspirational Spear Mistress. With 21 defense out of the gate. Again, your protection blows, but you could be very easily thugged up. Pretty expensive, but since you're sacred, the upkeep is very low. You could base the entire nation around this Spear Mistress. Because on the rare occasion that you hit them, and let's say you give them like 20 protection with some actual armor, they're going to regenerate that. Just give them 2 extra hit points, they'll regenerate 3 per turn. Glamour is good. Inspirational +2 is pretty good. 3 morale bonus for everyone under their command. If they had anyone useful under their command, this unit alone would make this nation worthwhile. Yeah, exactly. Skippy was saying the whole nation around this unit. But you wouldn't recruit any of this garbage, and it is garbage. I suppose the Ancient Knight would be your only hope, but the Ancient Knight costs about half as much as the Spear Mistress, and I would far rather have 1 Spirit Mistress than 2 or even 3 Ancient Knights. Yeah, non-magical, non-impressive stats here versus this 21 defense skill. You don't hit this thing. I struggle to think of any unit that out the gate would actually land hits on the Spear Mistress and a 21, not to mention Glamour. You land the hit and you end up just hitting an illusion. Yeah, poetic, a brilliant leader surrounded by idiots. Guess you could try and hit the Fey Horse, but even the Fey Horse is glamorous and has good defense skill. No protection though, they should have put some barding on that thing. What a shame, but this nation is a complete write-off. I don't want to play against them either. Oh, that's a note. Some of the nations we want to play against, so I don't actually mind making a note of Akato. It was Akato, right? Akato. Akato were... What are their axes? Air, nature, fire, water, astral. Air, nature, fire, water, astral. Kalians. Unremarkable. Because they are pretty unremarkable. Ithsus. Ooh, I think Cetus are going to want to file a complaint about this name, especially since they're also lizards. You're missing it. You can make 2 of those spear matrices in a turn, making you stack defense. I can get that horse to defense 31, meaning it alone could clear provinces in expansion. That would expand twice in turn 1, terrifying, even stronger than Sturm's Pioneer Mod Nation. Let's take another look at these guys. How are you getting defense up to 31? I suppose some cheap items could really boost defense. Could give them a significantly better shield that they can use on horseback. Anyway, I'm not sold on them. I don't want a nation for one unit, even if the unit is that good. Right, Ithsus. Not Cetus. We got lizards, although they look very unarmored. Yeah, they're running around in leather. Bonus to the lizards, though, is that they do have natural protection on their body due to that leathery flesh of theirs. They've got Death and Blood with weak fire and some Hate Peer mages. Here's the Hate Peer. They're unskilled users of blood magic. The Hate Peers are short-sighted commanders whose orders are obeyed by their pawns. They spurn the awakening god and will spread suspicion against the faith. Yeah, they're heretics. They actually lower my own dominion. But they are level 2 blood mages for quite a cost out the gate. They shapeshift into turkeys. Turkeys? You don't see turkeys often. Let's bring up the Mod Inspector tool to investigate what a turkey is. Get us out of this. Get us any nation. I want to know about the humble turkey. Here's a turkey. Oh, it's even showing up as the Hate Peer Shapeshifter. Pathetic skills. 8 hit points. No protection. What is a man to do with this? Gobble them up, I suppose. Okay, no use for the turkey. I mean, that's some good blood magic that we get out of you, but you do hurt the nation a little bit. You can't defile my god like that. Look at that. Death 3 with possibility for Death 4, a rare Death 5. But I'm swearing off Wraith Lords, right? I guess I am. Anyway, he's old as balls, but a fairly competent mage. Fire resistant, poison resistant, cold-blooded as often. Death 2 is lovely for spamming out hordes of skeletons. Death 1 is not. I don't really know what to do with Death 1 mages. They're just research fodder, but I like it when my research fodder could still be assembled for a fight. Scipio, you are well versed in Dominions. What use would you have in a Death 1 mage if you had to grab, say, 20 or 50 of them for a desperate defense of your capital? Because I have no idea how to actually put them to good use in combat. There's no natural death boosting like earth power or air power, or storm power rather, to boost them up to 2 where they can suddenly do lots of skeletons. So what do you do with Death 1? I have no idea. How's the rank and file? We got pikes, excellent for repelling, if only their attack skill were better. Morning stars, great swords. I like great swords. Less encumbrance on these guys as well. These guys are almost completely naked, but at least you don't pay much for them. That said, I'd still rather have a guy that actually has a ringmail hauberk over nothing. Fear spam. I think fear spamming got a lot less good in Dom 6. Got an Amazonian halberder. Death 1 is good for magic site searching for death gems. For Conjuration 3's spell. Death 1, kind of middling. Good thing for fear spam. If it were a combat mage, Hand of Death would be awesome, but nay. I'm seeing a lot of nay here. We've got another non-trampling... Wait, the chariot does trample. So we could go trampling around with decent protection. 19 protection trampler. Combat speed 13 is perfectly acceptable. Quite expensive, though. I love trampling, but it's great when your trampler doesn't get mulched. Hard to mulch protection 19. 25 hit points is pretty damn good as well. That's a Plate Curious and the Iron Cap coming into its own. Interesting. No, I'm swearing off Wraith Lords. At least for the time being. I always use them, so I want to go away from them. I need to find other ways to have awesome expansion. Here's our Sacred. Middling protection, middling skills except for very good defense skill. Quite cheap. Very cheap upkeep, but Sacreds get half cost upkeep. Quite killy. 3 to a square. Good. You know, this is a perfectly serviceable frontline rank and file, even if he weren't Sacred. Attack skill 11's a bit bleh, needs a bit buffing up. What could you do with these guys? I'm not even sure blood surging is so hot. I just wish the lizard champion on the on this were sacred. This guy would be much more fun to fluff up. Yeah, it'd be very hard to make him a commander and actually give him gear and such. We're already 2 steps into the Wraith Lord build. I'd say we're more than 2 steps. We're all the way there. We've got the death for sight searching. We've got the death here. These guys are death too, though. Although they are expensive, well, their upkeep isn't that bad. I could certainly crank out a lot of Flame Weavers and have them do hordes of skeletons. The problem, of course, is they die to a stray arrow. Yeah, they're mostly relying on their natural protection here. But hordes of skeletons are pretty cool, and I do love loads of skeletons. It's even nicer when you summon them in combat rather than outside of combat. We did a run previously where we had thousands of skeletons and we moved them as a giant army. Good for sieging, but very bad for attrition. The difference about summoning skeletons in combat is that those skeletons, doesn't matter if they die, you wouldn't keep them anyway. It does require assembling a lot of mages, but this seems pretty cool. I do like the idea of absolute... Yeah, what we can do, we can site search for a lot of death gems with you. You can unleash the hordes of skeletons, so I want to transition to making these guys as soon as I have an economy. And then you can get me some big globals at, well... Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard to get to Well of Misery with you. You can bring up the death gems right into space, and we could summon not Wraith Lords and have our way with the world. Sadly, we don't pivot into a lot of nice death things like making it dark, because we don't have dark vision. We're not undead, so we would get affected by things like the make everyone dying spell. Christ, what's it called? Not utter dark. Well, there's a spell that makes everyone age rapidly and get horrifically diseased. And it's good for Aramor and it's bad for everyone else. The fire access is lackluster. We might get very lucky and score a fire 3 guy, but that's like a, what, 1 in 40 chance? No, it's 1 in 40 to get this fire boost, and it's 1 in 4 this. So 1 in 440 was 1 in 160 of these Flame Weavers would end up fire 3. Recruitment point 4 capital only, that's not happening. Nah, Lakshadna, I don't want to make things that elaborate. I just want to play and have fun. I see a lot of promise with these guys. Let's make a note of these ones. So, CCS? Is that the name? CSI, not Miami. And their paths are... Hang on, I can just nudge this down, can't I? Or shrink it down a bit. There we go. So what do we have? We've got blood, death, fire... It's just those 3, huh? Do those hate peers not give me anything new? Fire, air, blood, death. So we do have access to air. Okay. Lizards. Trample. Loads skellies. I should elaborate on this. Trampling unit. So sacred. Sacred. We're not playing Monster Hunter Wilds. We've been over this. Alright, worth making note of. I would have no problem playing with these guys. See interesting things that could be done. Didn't even look at the cataphract, did I? Well, this is just a very standard heavy cavalry, isn't it? Yeah, complete with morale problems. Didn't check the morale on the others. Morale 13, morale 14. That's perfectly fine. 18 protection is pretty swell. 18 protection with 15 defense and non-human hit points. It's 20% better than a human right there. The warhorse itself also has barding, which is helpful. But look at these costs, man. I'm not sure I want to stomach that cost. When I could trample my enemies under a 19 protection. One of these things. Alright, well worth considering. Right, Usepa, the Rot Order. Zots. Oh, man. A very strong competitor for one of the worst unit types in the game, the Zots. They got severely weakened with Dominion 6 because even though they're flying, I believe they get slowed down by being in the caves because there's no cave survival in the game. A bit sad. Hell, it's very sad. Were there no elephant men yet? Not yet, but we don't know because we haven't seen them all yet. These guys have an assassin that might actually kill something. Comes down with 2 bronze hatchets. As provided he doesn't get squished in return, this assassin could probably kill. Quite cheap, quite fast to make. Interesting. It's not often great to use assassins for expansion because they're very slow. You have to usually kill 2 or 3 enemy commanders in a province, sometimes more. And you don't know that you've killed the last one until you have an assassination attempt fail. Then you take the province. I've just never been sold on assassinations for expansion. And if you fail, you got to recruit another one, send them out. I'm not sold on it. How about a mountain commander? Pretty poor leadership, I've got to say. Well, leadership 100 there. 100 is pretty normal. You can set lines actually instead of just having everybody square up. Cheap priests. All the Jots are crap at patrolling, but that's okay. Patrolling's quite rare. Hello, death. The Rot Defiler could be Death 3. Death 3 is a particular step up from Death 2 because it means hordes of skeletons is a lot cheaper to do and you can spam it out. Death 2 mages get very tired out doing hordes of skeletons, but Death 3s do not. Yeah, Wing Pygmy is suddenly sounding a lot better, but these guys have no protection, not even the lizardy, leathery skin, even lower hit points. Pretty rubbish stats overall. The Death Earth crosspath. I really don't know my crosspaths, do I? And yeah, it's lots of crosspaths, and I think this guy would be the heavy lifter right now. 1 in 4, or slightly better than 1 in 4 chance to be a Death 3 mage on the Rot Defiler. You've got a lot of things going on right now. You are significantly cheaper to recruit in death areas, so I could save a lot of money recruiting Grand Rot Abacomancers. Abacomancer. Is that a real word? What 2 words are being brought together here? Abba and Necromancer? Just really love Swedish pop. Yeah, they're all blind, but that doesn't bother them. Quite the sacred unit, lowering that upkeep cost, but the upfront cost is still horrific. Could go heavy on the death scales, but for what purpose? What's our frontliner here? The Just Sentinel. Again with the death recruitment, but that's not much cheaper. Actually, he's only 11. This guy's dirt cheap, but he's also dirt. Abacus Mances, clearly. Oh, didn't want to come out of it all. Abacus. The Arisen. Yeah, not very killy. I've never been sold on Jots. I'd actually like to see somebody play with Jots and show me how to make them competitive, but they are just such garbage units. No protection, no hit points. The defense skill's a bit better because they fly around. Wait, what was that? Shield parry? Oh, that's right, Hoplons are shields. Didn't even see it on the image there. Actually, I'm not sold on these guys. They die like flies. Cheap to make, but then making units and moving them around is a royal pain in this game as well. I suppose there's something to be said for stealthy, but against the AI that's not so hot. They put massive province defense everywhere. Can't tell the units apart. Pass, says Atlwin. That's reasonable as well. Yeah, I'm not sold on these guys. Get Osipa out of my way. Well now, more lizards combining with the Aites on a love for heat scale 2. Water, nature, blood, glamour with moderate priests. They can boost up the heat limit even more. They could make it heat 3, no problem. And they've got a unit just called King. Oh, I like the way you're going. We've got spies here. We can get better information about the provinces that we investigate. Relatively cheap spy going on. Master Guard is just... yeah, this is just a guy who ferries units and gems and things around. He's a waste of space. This guy a bit less so. 100 leadership. Negative death power again, so he gets more powerful with growth and in spring. Otherwise, no armor. Pretty terrible commander, because he could get one shot very easily and then the whole army routs. Perhaps the Falchion Chieftain is a different idea. He can't set lines for his units, because he's only got 70 leadership, but he does have Inspirational to give the +1 morale bonus that the Warlord would otherwise give. He's got Protection 10, he's got much more hit points. He's also rather expensive, and I suspect, yes, he would trample, which is not what you want your commander doing. Unless I thug this guy up for a trampler, but that seems like a waste of resources. The hermit. Ooh, what does he do? He can also tame serpents. I guess that's the hatchling again. Although I could check that, couldn't I? We can go onto the Dom 6 Inspector tool and look for the hermit. Here's the Ishkish hermit. We don't get the image for him, but yeah, once again he gets us the Hydra hatchling. I do not see the utility in getting Hydra hatchlings. Not that he'd be doing much else. Well, he'd be preaching down, wouldn't he? Very, very cheap. You know, at that kind of cost, it probably wouldn't be too bad to have him go and crank out those hatchlings. However, and this is a big however, 1 priest per temple per turn. So you get a lot of hatchlings for what possible use? Well, actually, unlike the other nation, we have inherent poison resistance. Not a huge amount, but it would be enough to get rid of the worst of the poison effect. Worth considering. Once again, we got a trampler, worse than the one that we saw before. What about our sacred? A naked sacred, who's just no better than these regular guys. And then we've got the Verdant Bringer. Yeah, this is quite an easy skip. A very easy skip. Yeah, pass on these guys. Most of their units are just made of these guys, who can be good if they have the slave tag, making them very cheap. But they don't, and they're just not very good. No nets on them. They got javelins, which I don't see much utility for. Get me out of Ishkis. Get me over to Nishian, the ephemeral burrow. The Tengus are here, not to be confused with the Kalans. They're bigger, stronger, more aggressive. The Nodachi, the lightning strike is back. Not occupied with the privilege of leading, they are skilled in professional murder. Now this guy could actually murder. That's good damage out of his Nodachi. Yeah, pretty competent assassin here. Look at those skills though, 15, 17. The protection's a bit low, the hit points aren't that great, but good luck landing a hit on this guy. Whilst he slices you to bits for 23, that is going to make slurry out of enemy mages. Are some of these stronger than others just from better random synergies, or is there legitimately a difference in the amount of points available for the randomizer to spend? I can't give a good answer to that, because I don't know the inner workings of the randomizer. I doubt it's on purpose making some good, some bad, but it's not intelligent enough to know what synergizes with what. It usually just goes with race, goes with magic, and then gives you units, and if they're going to work, great. If they're not, too bad. Axe chieftains. So we got quite a lot of lumbering cavemen who are usually quite bad on skills and morale and pretty good on hit points and blunt strength. That said, yeah, that great club can ruin anyone's day if it hits them. But that's a big if. Attack skill 10, attack skill 10, flame retardant and cold retardant. Pretty good. He throws rocks. Oh man, that's one way to have your day ruined. Just blind smacked by a caveman rock. There's the Just Guard with his katana, his lightning strike, and his passable skills. And the Pure Paladin, Naginata. Two-handed weapon with lightning strikes coming out. It's got air shield, storm immunity, cold shock, sacred. Good protection on this guy. Not particularly great skills though. How about our mage core? Death is back on the menu. Air and death. Isn't air death cause some kind of stagnant winds, or is that to like howling winds to lower enemy morale in battle? It's pretty powerful. Air and nature. Leadership 50. Oh god, they have to be led by a caveman. It's trepidatious. An inspirational caveman leader for Tengus. Is 700 more expensive or less expensive for Temple? I forget if they got boosted to 6 or 800 in Dominion 6. I forget the nation that got temple-trained sacred spiders. I don't know about temple-trained, but it's Makasha? Oh, they'll be here, won't they? It's a nation I have a very soft spot for. No, not Marignon. Machaka! They've got these sacred spiders. They're cool, but they're almost impossible to make work well. Because the hunter spider is just a big, dumb, easy target. I don't know if they got better with the whole mount system. Because the problem was the whole unit has very low hit points. And then you just hit it, it dies, and then goodbye lots of money. But look at that, the upkeep cost got dramatically reduced, I think. No, they're still bad, says Scipio. Well, I tell you, there are 2 units that make this nation really good. The Humble Hoplite, who's got his formation fighter, so you grab 4 of these guys in a square. 4 length 4 Machaca spears. Get some weapons on sharpness on this, and you're going to have a very bad time. Excellent protection for a human. And then backline of Spider Knights spitting out webbing on the enemy. Not to mention these guys are pretty good on their own accord. I really like that combo. On top of that, there's another unit that makes it very useful, and that's the Witch Doctor. The Witch Doctor can be recruited in a forest with a laboratory. Does not need a fort, does not need a temple. So that means you can get your research on the get-go pretty quickly. She might be inept, but she gets it done fast. Is it a she? I think she has the female tag, so maybe it is a man. Can't tell, right? Sprite's too small. Anyway, we're not playing as them. I played as them before and had a miserable time because I got boxed in by Airmore. I had to learn very quickly how supply works in the game when I played as them. Anyway, not won over by the Tengus. Who else do we have? The Dithin, the Brimstone Followers. If you blessed it into orbit, it would be cool. Yeah, but that goes for any unit. Just about any unit you could invent a bless that would make work amazing well for them. And that's one of the things that's really cool about Dominions. Any unit you see, you could generally work that with, as long as they have a torso. You could see this little pygmy soldier that has really captured your heart. You could Gift of Reason him into a commander, give him a bloodied sacred vest thing that would make him sacred, and then you could bless him to the moon. The thing that really won me over in Dominions overall was when I was playing the game and I was unloading war dogs on the enemy. And I thought, these war dogs are cool. Couldn't I make a war dog a commander? And it was exposed to me that not only could I do that, I could then equip him with magical items and have a super Chad war dog leader at my beck and call. The Alpha War Dog. I didn't do it, but the idea that I could do it was what won me over on this game in general. Could you do that in Civilization? No, you can't do anything but cry over your miserable life if you play Civilization, but with this game, you only cry over the hours you've lost playing it. Anyway, we're looking here at Deathinen. We've got Firebogs, we've got Half-Men, Fire, Air, and Death. They do not like the cold, apparently. Could the War Dogs be covered in oil or tar to set aflame stuff? Yes. Yes, they could. It would be a bit elaborate, but you could give them Fire Shield, Heat Aura, Death Explosion, which means you have a burning dog running into the enemy. If anyone tries to attack it, they get melted. If anyone is near it, they get melted. If anyone kills it, there's a big explosion that would melt them as well. So, yes to your elaborate question. What about the High Chieftain here, right? So Centaurs are generally quite powerful units because they have amazing defense skill and good speed. Not to mention twice the hit points of a human and a convenient size for 2 to a square. So, much as I hate to admit it, Centaurs are great. This guy lacks attack skill. Also, they tend to have built-in hoof attacks. And if you give them a... Well, this guy's just got a hoof. That lance just breaks... No. Bonus on charge strike, but he keeps it. Some lances, the units drop them after using them, and then they're kind of useless. But this guy is not very killy, but he could get the job done. Not that expensive either. Regular people on horseback, but I can't imagine why I would ever choose them when I've got the Centaur champion. And our Sacred is just a fairly standard bronze spear wielding, good defense attack skill guy. Low protection though, I don't know why you'd take anyone over the Centaur champions given the options here. And this is interesting. The Ancestral Scion on armored horseback as a mage. This is extremely unusual to see. Very low fire resistance and cold susceptibility, but look at that. That for Death 2 mage, 2 recruitment points. Kind of expensive, not going to die in the heat of battle. 1 year is 12 turns, because it's 4 seasons, and each season has an early, middle, and late. Fascinating. Haha, we've got Old Man! Senior Brimstone Ravager. The Senior Brimstone Ravager has mastery over fire magic. No kidding, he's got 3, potentially 4, potentially 5 fire. Unfortunately, the heat resistance that we have across the nation is too low, and this guy doesn't even have it. The horses do have it, so the game does know to give mounts the same resistances. This guy's also got 3. The fire resistance is kind of low, but your access to fire is quite high. Fire is a very aggressive magic to use. What's the magic needed to summon a flame elemental? A good one, that is. I think it's fire 3. But fire 2 is enough to phoenix power, right? And then you give them fire in a jar, and then suddenly, boom, fire elementals are spawning all across the battlefield. The trouble is that counter-synergizes with the undead. The undead are cold resistant, but not fire resistant. Of course, it doesn't really matter much if they burn to death. Or it's 2 fire gems. Yeah, that's a good point. Ooh, built-in healer on the Master Vicar. That is cool, because even if someone gets diseased... Well, no, because you want disease healer for that. But if someone gets blinded or their arm chopped off, you can go to see the Master Vicar and get it sewn back on. Respectable leader with a high chieftain. So we've actually got some fairly good expansion units out the gate with the centaurs. And then when centaurs aren't cutting it anymore, probably pivot into using wardens of fire. Maybe add a bit more fire resistance on them. And we pivot into burning everything through the power of old men and augmenting it through hordes of undead out of a very unusual scion. Not quite commander, but certainly mage option here. I like it. I like a lot about this. I love it when my mages don't die to a stray arrow. And being on horseback, his encumbrance isn't so horrific that he... Oh, well, there we go. Spellcasting encumbrance 15. He won't be able to summon a ton of the skellies. Also, he's very expensive outside of that. Could I buff these guys and use them as totally not Wraith Lords? The problem is Death 2 is 1 shy of being anything particularly useful. And the death boosters are all ludicrously expensive. Lots of gems to make a skull cap or a skull staff. Can't think of any other death boosters that are widely available. Just anything to make this guy Death 3 and he would be a monster. I could give him a death gem so that he could cast Soul Vortex in combat. Or I could make some things that have temporary death gems, so I can't think of any. Well, why think of any? The game surely has them. I don't know the tag for it. Anyway, these guys are interesting. Interesting things could be done with this guy. In combat and in magic. The only thing this guy wouldn't be doing is sitting on his fat arse researching. Also, I didn't notice this. They have command over supernatural hounds who will fight for them in battle. We must know more about this scion. Tell me more. The ancestral scion right here. He has 2 black dogs. Good attack skill, mediocre defense skill, better than human hit points. Pretty fast. They have dark vision, they're stealthy, they have dark power, they have iron vulnerability. So if you strike this dog with an iron weapon, like a sword or a spear, but arrow tips apparently don't count for that. Not enough iron in the arrow tip. You can do extra damage and even stun them. Anyway, coming in with black dogs is pretty cool. You are capital-only recruitment guy. But I'm fascinated by this nation. I think we could do stuff with this. What's the name of you, Sunshine? Death. Oh, God, it's so hard to read. Death Inn. Death with an extra H and then in like Anne at the inn. Death Inn. And we have... Fire, air, death. Expansion centaurs. Mediocre. Mediocre? Yeah. Okay, let's just go with so-so. Easier to spell. So-so, sacred, interesting, death mage, and fire mage. And it is interesting. Keep these guys in note. Ah! Our very own Swedish train driver Tyrion is here to say nice and round number deserves a message, I guess, for hanging around 50 months, which does sound around the time that I would have started doing Dominions content. And that's all they say. Well, good job. I look forward to the end of Mario someday. Well, no, I don't want it to end. Oh yeah, what's our access for gems here? No death gems is a shame, but this guy can go and find death gems, and then he could potentially keep them and soul vortex his way through battles. He is, again, not very killy, and I'd be hesitant to remove that golden spear. But I could give him something else that we can cheaply make. How's our water access? What do you mean non-existent? I swear we get water. Yeah, look at that. We get water per turn. I could... Yeah, this guy's bound to pop up water eventually. I could certainly... They compete for national... They compete for spawning on the capital, because that's the only place I can do both of those, and the Warden of Fire. Point is, I could make something like a frost sword for this guy, then he becomes a lot more killy. But he's very hard to kill. Protection 16, defense 17. Even so, I still think he'd be making skeletons. That's a better use of his power. Overall, do you prefer 6 or 5? I've only played 5. 6 is an improvement over 5. It is not a big improvement. So if spending, what is it, like 30 quid on this game is an issue for you, you're not missing out on much by staying on 5. However, it is better, so if you want the best strategy experience, Dominions offers it, and Dominion 6 is slightly better than 5. I was actually quite disappointed by the game when it came out, because it didn't offer much more over 5. A lot of the changes in this game you wouldn't even notice unless you were a seasoned Dominions player. But at this point I'm slightly more seasoned than before, and I still appreciate the changes. It's just, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Vance, the Atlanteans. I believe Atlanteans are the first nations the first race I ever played with when I first picked up Dominions 4 back in those dark days. But here we are. What do we have? Heavy infantry champions, heavy bear cavalry. I wish they were sacred. But you don't need to be sacred to be impressive like this. Defense skill 14. Natural protection on the bear, 15 protection on the rider, and they have ice armor, so if it's cold, they're even better at that. They've got dark vision, and they've got a magical weapon that does extra damage on the first strike, and the bear that they ride on will bite and claw. Biggest downside, they are only 1 to a square, although you can fill it up with other little units. What do we have in terms of little units? Ooh, actually, synergy. You can have a bear and a sword champion sharing a square. And the sword champion is pretty competent on his own. 13, 12 protection, 24 hit points. And there's no auras or anything counter-synergizing them. We also have Shambler champion who could be there with his coral club. He beats you with a blunt weapon that poisons you. I don't know how that works, but it does. Phenomenal protection on these guys, even though they don't defend for their life. With 22 hit points and 21 protection, you're not getting through this. Downside, massive resource cost. Upside, these guys will clobber the seas. Look at that. They'll go into water, no problem. The Great Bear cannot go into the water. That's strange. The Vancean champion, I think, should be able to go into the water, but he doesn't have the amphibian tag. Oh well. Fists and blowpipes. Wow. The Glaive champion. These guys are brokenly good normally, but here less so because their stats are garbage. Good protection with a phenomenal weapon. The Meteoric Glaive is one of the best rank and file weapons you could get. It's magical, it's long, it's good in just about every way. 10 attack skills, not much to write home about, but these guys would be cost effective just to chug up the front lines. But I already have an option for front lining. And I think it's better to go Vancean and Great Bear frontline. That said, all of these guys have uses of their own. Our Sacred is a bowman. He's got a long bow. He only makes 12 shots. Not phenomenal precision. Sun Awe, that's a waste of time. Falchion, mediocre skills, low protection. Could fluff up these guys and their arrow usage. But we might just ignore Sacreds altogether if that were the case. Maybe make something for our mages. Oh, this is nice. This is nice. The Castellan. It's nice when your leader, or the leader of your troops, actually has a bit of protection, doesn't die to a stray shot. Again with a Meteoric Glaive. Pretty pathetic scout, but what do you expect? I prefer just to get my generic scouts. We've got water, we've got astral, we've got a lot of water. Just about every mage knows about water. Ooh, Pearl Cultivator. You can grow magic pearls in a process involving clams. The amount of water gems needed is the same amount of astral pearls gained. So you can turn water to astral in a 1-to-1 conversion. I don't think I'd make much use of that because it uses up a mage turn, and this guy's mage turn is very important. That guy's water 4. I don't play around with water often, but you can do cool things with water. We also have a level 3 priest. This is an interesting nation. Definitely putting you down on the possibilities. So, what do we have here? We've got Vanse. Is it just Vanse? Vanse. And what are you guys? You're water, fire, air, astral. Water, fire, air, astral. And you are Atlanteans, Aites. What are we looking at? Bear Cav, Meteor, Glaives, lots of water. The amphibian aspect of this is pretty compelling, though. Could certainly take the waters. Do these guys have anything built in that make them particularly good for this? Not really. I like that long spear over the Kopesh, though. What you lose into damage, you gain in the ability to repel. Attack skill 11 won't repel much, but I think the repel hits will be worth it, because the point of these guys will be to hold the front line. If I could get some quickening on these guys... Oh lordy, if I could do mass quickening... Suddenly this bear unit is chugging out 6 attacks right there. But I don't know how you can do... I think even mass quickening doesn't do your whole army and costs gems. No redemption run for the Spire tonight. The Spire's already getting a lot of playtime. I need to sleep. Didn't do much sleeping last night because of playing lots of Bannerlord. Right, very much like this. What else do we have? Ooh, how is this for a competing attention on the Atlantean option? Instead of mixing it with the Avites, the Jotuns come in with an unholy alliance. They prefer heat scale, which could be a problem. Fire, water, nature, and glamour. They've got spies, so a better scout, that's for sure. Leadership 100 has a net, but opposite problem right here. No protection, so he's just going to get shot and killed by an arrow. Here's a guy who's actually got a shield. Maybe that'll help. I'd still want to give him some basic protection. But inspirational +2, massive boost to morale. Cheap. Priests are nice. Oh, lordy, now here's a sergeant. Inspirational, resistant to all 4 elements, sacred, priestly, meteor trident with good skills. This guy could be a thug. On his great bear. What happens to a commander who loses his mount, by the way? That I don't know. That is something I'd like to know in Dominion 6. You could put barding, by the way, on the Great Bear. If I really didn't want it to die, and I did thug this guy up, I would definitely give the bear some barding to keep it alive. And yeah, this guy runs in, magical trident smashing for 20 damage. 19 protection, 15 defense. This guy is impressive. I like him a lot. And I could make a bless based around this one guy and crank them out because they're only recruitment points 1. Ooh, wow. Okay, so we could have thug life here. Love thugging, it's one of my favorite things to do in the game. Costly in gems, though, although I don't know what I'd do to this guy to make him better. They get an order to regain their mount. Thank you, Czar. Does it cost anything? I guess it costs 1 turn. Right, ooh, priestly 3 out the gate as well. Thrones and mass blessing, look out. The Adept Seer, fire, water. We're gonna make steam. Gabe, roll over. Cheap research seems difficult here. Cheap research seems non-existent here. We've got 15... we've got 15 research ability on you, a rare 17, but a 260 cost and an ongoing 205 per year. Research is untenable with this nation. Research very difficult. Because nobody researches. So we need to have a lot of money to afford our seers. Yeah, almost all nations get a cheap mage, but it seems like cheap mage was thrown away in favor of either having this 3 priestly guy or this monster of a sergeant. Yeah, exactly. We could hell bless this, but that works a little against going for thugging. Hell Blessing is more like have one really good unit. Hang on, these must be our sacreds. The Acid Paladin. Whoa, it's the Sergeant, but we can have him in bulk. Hell Bless the Acid Paladin. Use generic mages for research. Brilliant idea, but we have to find them. One of my favorite things for indie researching like that is the... Is it called the Woodland Priest? Because they're sacred, they're nature, so they're cheaper. Yeah, that's a good way, but yeah, you gotta get going with that. Or we just swallow the costs for a while, but I would love to transition into that. Could totally hell bless these guys. Even a modest bless, and these guys are rampaging. Considerably lower skills on the rank and file, though. Alright, here's the non-sacred version. Would never take the non-sacred over the sacred. Yeah, these guys can be buffed up. Their ongoing cost is 34 as opposed to 40. Slightly more upfront cost, but it's totally worth it. Massive defense skill boost. I like these guys a lot. What else do we have anyway? Ooh, morale booster. How's morale? Morale is perfectly fine. Morale boosting poison barbed standard bearer. Good protection, crappy defense. Coral glaive. This guy hits like a truck, by the way. And he's size 4, so he actually will go together with the Acid Paladin. Frontline of Acid Paladins combined with the Shambler. You hit the Shambler, you get poisoned. Either of them hit you for massive damage. I could even mix them together. Combat speed is significantly different. That's why these guys are called Shambler. But there'll always be space for the Shamblers because of the way that the bears won't mix together in a square. They'll always leave 4 area in their square for the Shambler to come in and fill in. Jotuns are scared of shock damage. That's a given across the board. These guys are even smaller. I don't imagine why I'd want these smaller brigands over using the Shambler standard bearer. Ice Lance is still magical though. Bonus for first strike. Bonus is limited to half the strength of the charging unit, and it's based on combat speed and size. Well, combat speed 7, there's not much of a bonus going on this thing. Cost effective to a degree, but... Well, no buts. These guys can hold a front line. Defense skill 13, protection 18, boosted by ice armor 2. Whoa, that's significant. Yeah, this protection goes up to 22 in cold situations. That might be even better than the standard bearer. Water tends to keep its temperature pretty well, so it's hard to get cold in water, but you guys are very, very hard to kill. You just don't attack very well. Fire Watcher Nature, Glamour. Oh, hang on, where were we? What's the name of this guy? Is it the Milse? Right, you know what? Screw Vance. Milse is just these guys, but more interesting with a thugging option. Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, see this one interesting unit. What if we could have more and even more interesting? All right, so... Say no to these guys, because they are outclassed. What was that? Control Z, please. We want ourselves... Milse. Is that how you say? I have no idea how you read these things. Milse. Milse, they have... Let's see... Smaller. Too small. Fire, water, nature, glamour, thug, bear riding, sergeant? Sergeant? That's just E, it's not EA. There's EA at the end. Not that it really matters, right? Also the race is Atlanteans, Jotuns. Is that how you spell Jotuns? There's no H in Jotuns. Thug, bear riding sergeant. Awesome units. Because it is awesome. Did he say what the risk is with just picking them randomly? I just want to explore what they are, and then you guys can decide who I play as. I'm just making a list of all the ones that I got no problem playing as or against. What I'll probably do is... you choose which one we play as, and then we grab 3 or 4 of them to play against, or maybe even all of them if we want a big fight to the death, which we could. Altaro, crustaceans and midgets. Little hungry Hoburgs, scion of the arranged citadel. He's got the blood, he's got the earth. This guy's got just the earth. And then, whoa's this monster right here? King of the enraged citadel. He comes with a tainted earth elemental. Earth elemental with tainted earth. He's got cross paths up the wazoo. Get up to 4 of them. He might be old, but he's powerful. He's got his bone glaives and his untyped damage pincer. Cannot be resisted. Yeah, so midget, or crab in terms of mages here. Senior Hierophant? He's got Metal Yari, a pincer, pretty good combat mage right there. Very nice leader, 100 plus inspirational. And damn near unkillable, but very killy exemplar crustacean. And he's ethereal, oh lord. This guy is going to be hard to kill. His defense isn't very high, so you will hit him, but you have to penetrate 22 protection. There's a 75% chance you miss with ethereal unless your weapon is magical. And then you've got 26 hit points to chew through. All the while, he's hitting you twice. Once with a metal trident, once with an Actually, this is a typed pincer attack. It's slash damage. Anyway, he's hitting pretty hard. If he hits, though, he's only got attack skill 10. This guy's a massive tank. They're all massive tanks, right? 20, 20, 20, 21, 21. Oh, I love these things. Mechanical mosquitoes. They come around and they bite you with their magical mosquito bites. They are resistant to everything. They also exhaust easy. And this guy's riding around it with a falchion and a lance. He eats a lot, his protection is very high, and he can fly. So we've got an actually protected Hoburg that goes into the back line and unthinkably does damage. Only size 3 as well, so you can get 3 of these guys flying up. Not cheap, and maybe not that killy because the mechanical mosquito doesn't actually do damage, it just does fatigue damage. But fascinating. I don't think I've ever played as the crabs before, but they seem monumentally powerful. I guess the main problem is they don't kill so well. Come on, that's... Yeah, the main problem is that attack skill. It's difficult to land hits. But this guy is the sacred, and he's ethereal out the gate. This guy could be blessed to land his hits, and then suddenly every enemy has a problem. Something they can't kill that is actually killing them. Mechanical mosquitoes? What fresh hell is this? The mechanical mosquito is also the size of a human. So imagine human-sized mosquitoes coming at you. Unthinking, unfeeling. The true horror of mankind. I am excited in a big way at these guys. So we're putting you down. Altaro is also similar to Avaro, so we've got that Kamidori tie-in. Or was Avaro Amayui? No, it's Atlaro. Atlaro. Their paths are Earth, Blood, Water. Earth, Blood, Water. I swear that extra guy had something else going for him. There's Earth, there's Blood, there's Water. We do have Glamour. Alright, no, let's not pass off the fact that Glamour is available. Crabs. Plus mechanical mosquito riding midgets. Fascinating. Alright, how many have we got left to go? Not that many, actually. Alright, Mappa. I'll try and be a bit speedier and more judgmental, because we've already got quite a few of them on the list now. Thanks for that image. I didn't plan on sleeping tonight anyway. Don't worry. It doesn't drink your blood, but it will still bite you. Crab people. They look like crabs, but they taste like people? I wouldn't claim to know. We've got giant rat riders back, but this time they actually wear armor. They're also enslaved. Slaves don't cost a lot of upkeep. I do like the fact that these guys are armored. I just don't like the fact that they still don't do any real damage. Foul bite, though. The rats spread disease. That's a thug killer right there. Battle axe does damage, though. Not a lot, but it does do damage. Still enslaved. Low resource cost. Pathetically low morale, but very low cost. Leather instead of reinforced leather as the armor, though. Golden warrior, bronze spears, poisonous skin, stone spears, earth, air, astral. What the hell are these things? Plateau Aviculturalists of Mappa. That doesn't really tell me what you are. You've got a spirit familiar helping them in battle. Can't really tell what that is there. Powerful mages. And they're sacred as well. I love sacred mages. More of a pain to recruit, but more, much lower upkeep. Not disinterested, but I'm going to scroll through quickly and look for anyone that's really interesting that I want to add to the list. That was Mappa, right? More midgets. I've ran pretty much this nation before. Yeah, we can see it's midgets on boars. These guys got gobbled up when I played as pretty much these before. And it's got the same kind of flying sacred guy here. These die like flies. I don't know how to make them work. And I will not try to find out this time. Taco Lotion. Atlanteans and the Jots. The Jots are back for more. One of them even rides around on a jaguar. Biting, clawing, clubbing, enslaved as well. Very low cost for such a killy unit. And it's size 3. That's not the world's biggest jaguar. It's half the size of a bear. 3 of these to a square actually has 9 attacks. But the protection is really low and the defense skill is not that great, and the attack skill, the Jaguar's got it though. Fun times. What else do we have here? The Blue King. Got water, we got earth. Free for all halfling arena when. So would that be Hobbergs and Zots only? Okay, even that I don't know who would win out. Air, water, earth, death, nature. I feel like I'm not giving these guys the time of day they deserve. They do look pretty cool. What is that? Sinus Lords. Nice paths. Alright, still though. Moving along. We've dealt with these guys before. Illithids. Cool guys to use, but they all look the same. And we did our mind-blasting stuff that kind of worked, but kind of didn't. I think we won in the end. Actually, I can't remember that run. I should rewatch it. Ga Hongan. The Kalians are back. This time they've got some regular guy running around on a warhorse who looks oddly green. But otherwise, we've seen some Kalians. Get out of here. Gonder is here with foul spawns. A whole nation of foul spawn. In my experience, foul spawn bug out in the randomizer. And I think it's something like they don't get equipment. So I don't want to play around with them again until I test them, and I haven't tested them. Even so, look at these nasty foul spawn commanders. Headbutt. This guy's got a couple of pincers and a goat head to headbutt with. Typeless pincer damage. Armor piercing is a big deal on that. Unhindered. Sailing sensor. Yeah, tomorrow is satisfactory, by the way. I don't know when I'll fit this in when I play it, but I will find a way. Inspirational +2, 150. Leadership, misshapen commander. Oh man, I don't think I've seen a nation that just has all these horrifically misshapen commanders before. It's cool, but it's hideous. The other way around, it's hideous, but it's cool. It's only really water and nature. National mages are not affected by drain scale. Oh, here we go. What placeholder text is this? 1 unit of this category will appear. Wow. Guaranteed 4 with something else popping out. Recruitment point 2 and reasonable cost for so many paths as well. You know what? You're being added to the list, but I need to look into you more to see if we can actually add you in for good. So what are you called? Gonder. Gonder. And they've got water, astral, nature, misshapen freaks. How do you spell misshapen? Well, not like that. Yeah, well, let's go misshapen freaks. That's good. Misshapen freaks. Although they do have some enslaved non-freaks. Low morale, long spear wielding, pretty crummy lizards, but extremely low cost. Ooh, halberd's definitely better than long spear. Look at that, that is killy. If they land a hit, these guys are killy. Oh yeah, oh man, that's a slave shock troop right there. Again, if they land their hit, but they've got protection 16, so they can take a few hits before they run like the cowards they are. Ooh, how about this? Mix of both. Hammer kills alright-ish. This guy gets the shield for defense skill, and he has a protection to the other guy. For reasonable resource cost. I'm going to add that to the note. Slave Lizard Shock Troops. 16 resources, though. I think we can live with that. We can have foul spawns that cost almost no resources. We're going to have foul spawn cavalry. I need to check if this works, by the way, because there's a good chance it doesn't. Actually, why not check it right now? What are these guys called again? Gonder. Create a new world. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. This I care about. Get me Gonder. Don't care about the rest of them. Just give me this. As long as I'm an awake guy with good candles, I don't really care about this. Maybe not that good candles. Alright, Kruzak, I'll praise him. Renaming is fine. Cheat prevention disabled in case I need to fiddle around with this later. The cheat prevention, by the way, if somebody's caught cheating, the game will just alert everybody, hey, this person is cheating. But I did try that one time. I wanted to run some tests and I needed a lot of gems. So I launched Cheat Editor, tried to change the amount of gems, and the game just crashed, citing internal inconsistency. I couldn't get around that, so I don't know how one is meant to cheat in this game. Hopefully somebody who's a massive cheater can tell me. Alright, let's get some freaks. I also want to see the freaky mages. Nothing under any pressure to achieve anything here. So, get me these guys. What do you mean I can't afford them? I don't want to hear can't afford, I want to hear can afford. Can I get more of these guys? I don't care that nothing is being done here, I just want to see the units. A tilde console with codes might be built in. Nope. They really don't like this game being easy to work with in that regard. For example, when you win the game just shuts down. You can't save and keep on playing around with it. You can't make periodic saves unless you go into your file hierarchy and back it up manually. Don't know why they make it so awkward. Okay, wow. These are some cool looking individuals. Tell me more. Can't believe I've forgotten how this works. Is it T? There we go. Hey, this freaking guy. Champion of Stars. He's got a weird ohm body with a pincer hand. It's an exceptional armor-piercing pincer. Protection 12, amazing skills, built-in stuff. Tentacles, javelins. Arbalist? An armored arbalist user? Whew. Once every 3 rounds, but amazing range. Partly made of iron. This weapon could be affected by rust, but will not deal extra damage to iron-vulnerable creatures. Gondry's Heavy Champion. I'm loving the fact that they actually get equipment now. That was what was problematic in the old version of this mod. Foul spawn and misshapen like this. They'd end up with no equipment, so they'd just come out with useless punches and be naked, and they were just a waste of time. Heavy Foul Spawn Light Ogre Infantry with a bite with strangulation and a tentacle. He sees all, he's got good stats. And yeah, it's hard to pick multiple of good things, but we could just run with freaks. The Freak Show run. Okay, no matter what gets rolled for this, I think we'll play with this random set multiple times, because there are multiple cool things, including these freaks. By the way, didn't I get other mounted freaks? I thought I made more. Give me just a bunch of mounted freaks, see what they end up being. Dom 6 Chat Edition? You're not that bad. Besides, we already have chat in here. We've got Kruzak here. Godwin. Actually, I don't think I updated this mod for custom names. I'll have to check on that one. But it does remember the custom pretender name. Forgetting my hotkeys here, which is unusual. So I made all those mounted freaks. Seems like we got some mounted Fey freaks. Do these guys count as mounted? I thought I made considerably more mounted individuals than that. I made tons of them. Where'd they all go? Easy way to check that would be to grab everybody, shove them over to Alley, and then see what kind of supposedly mounted freaks we end up with. Okay, so these count as mounted, apparently. If you say so. Mounted on his own snaky body. Same with you. Ew. Sacred! 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 Are they all sacred? I think... Yeah, we know that they're the sacred cavalry because they come out sacred. Although what the game considers cavalry is up to it. Wow, what could be done with this? Good protection. Holy freaking... This guy's amazing. Resistance across the board. I love this little freak nation. Definitely adding you to the list. Quit game, don't save, get me back. Could be an interesting pick for a Hellbless, yeah, but you don't know what's going to work so well with it. So they were Gonder, freaks. You know what, we're going to run with these guys, but not today. Or rather, not for this choice. Use another time. Because freaks are cool. Take that and... we'll actually just leave a spacing under it for you, so I don't forget. And what else do we have beyond Gonder? Not a lot. We know we're back to the vanilla nations when we get to Riley. So we've got Emut. Ooh. We recently played as Abyssians, I think. Correct me if I'm incorrect on that one. I might be incorrect. I need to look at my own History of Dominions videos because I've forgotten. Right, search across your channel. Yes, tell me about my own Dominions videos. Who have I played as recently? Yeah, we played as Jawet, the Court of Steam. That was an Abyssian nation. So I don't want to do Abyssians again, but maybe we could fight against Abyssians, especially when there are Abyssians riding around on ginormous scorpion beasts. Or if you don't like scorpions, how about riding around on giant fossilized giants? Recently discovered a gorge near the borders of Gath with ancient magic uncovering eroding winds, mighty earthquakes, and huge bones protruding. Riding around with a battle axe on the back of a giant, and the giant itself has an old fossil sword. Massive protection, not so much for the rider. Actually, 15 on that, it's pretty good. Why is he using his fists? Chakram and fist on the Fire Sentinel? That's not particularly impressive, but maybe he just really believes in his fists. It actually lowers his defense just using fists. Interesting. Yeah, good point. We should play against the freaks. Alright, well, I'll still leave them in bold so I remember them, because they are pretty cool. Yeah, Big Xena, the warrior, Princess Warrior, right? I think she had a Nintendo 64 game that blew. Not a very remarkable sacred because he doesn't have any weapons, and there's no way to give him weapons unless you make him into a commander, and that's an expensive ordeal. But speaking of cool commanders, the Morning Star Lord, who does actually use a Morning Star, as well as a heavy lance, rides around on a scorpion, pincers, tails, size 6, an unfortunate size. Essentially a commander version of these guys. Blazing heat. Probably doesn't affect the scorpion itself, right? Otherwise the scorpion would catch fire. Good inspirational commander. These things are back, but they're just a scout this time. Lots of paths for the Abyssians. Death, air, earth. No fire is a bit of a bummer for an... Oh, there's the fire. Okay, so they do get fire as well. A little rare, though. Funny that fire is there on their crappy little mage. And their mage, you don't know what you're getting, but you do have a good, easy way into blood for these guys as well. Yeah, I quite like Emut. Abyssians are a bit vanilla as nations go in this, but these guys are sufficiently interesting. What were they called again? Emut. India... Movember, uniform, tango. And they are air, earth, death. And I'm still adding fire, because they definitely have fire. Abyssians on fossil giants and scorpions. Scorians. Scorpion? Scorpion. Fascinating. Right, Sivian. Humans and Haubergs. Wait, aren't these undeads? The High Flame Weavers, yeah, we do have undeads. Fiery undeads with massive fire path available. You're not sacred, so you cost an arm and a leg. But you do have heat and firepower. You're even better fire guys than the Abyssians are. Especially with that firepower. Holy hell, heat 6. Well, that's for the super mages. Who else has heat? Heat 5 on less super mage. But still fire 2 at the bat with the possibility more than 1 in 4 of being fire 3. So this is like fire elementals the nation. I hope they get a lot of fire gems. Yes, they do. Fire resistance on their trampling low protection chariot. Oh, this thing dies in a... This thing dies so easily. Protection 12, defense skill 13, but the chariot itself just dies very quickly. 20 hit points, no barding. Yeah, no barding at all. Not so hot. This guy, on the other hand, flame resistant, cold resistant, poison resistant, undead, with good magic resistance to resist banishing. He gets more powerful, he sets the enemies on fire, he's 3 to a square with a good magical weapon, so very strong chassis as a sacred. Ooh, but the midgets are back! Enslaved midgets on deer. The deer's hit with antlers. Defense skill exceedingly high at 18. Protection actually not terrible for a hauberk. And because they're enslaved, these guys cost very little. Gluttony is a shame. Stealthy is less of a shame. Could they... Yeah, they could even be stealthily led away. They also have a taskmaster with inspirational to whip them into shape. There is no way we're not adding these guys to the list. Oh, yeah. Oh, that is so cool. Right, bringing you guys in. What are you called? Cissvath. A lot of cool nations here. Sometimes you can really be searching through the randomizers to find anything quite interesting, but we're getting a lot of them here. Fire Astral. I know we have more than Fire Astral. Don't hold out on me like that. Death Nature is there. Death and Nature. Undead. Hot Humans. Massive firepower. Midgets on deer. Does Enslaved have downsides? Yes, it absolutely has downsides. Let's check one of our slaves here. Slaves usually have very low morale, but is boosted if led by a taskmaster. Slaves do not get any salary or expensive food and have halved upkeep cost. I don't know if the expensive food part is relevant, because as far as I'm aware, they still use up their full amount of supplies. Could be wrong, but that's my experience. However, I believe slaves are fed last, so if there are supply issues, they will starve first, therefore lower morale, get diseased, and die. And yes, the morale is typically lower on slave units. But that's okay, because you lead them with a taskmaster. This taskmaster alone will boost their morale by 3. Although they're also uninspiring, which lowers it by 2, so actually this is a terrible guy. Ugh, slaves leading slaves. No, you want the warlord here. The warlord will boost them by 1, and then an additional 1, so suddenly they've got morale 10. And 10 is still bad, but I don't expect these guys to be pulling all their weight in the fight. I just want them to... I kind of want these guys to go on a flank. Heavy bronze lance, short swords. These guys could even be on a flank, said to attack rear. That defense skill means they are monumentally hard to hit. And with protection 11, they should survive a hit. Maybe. But these guys are the front line. The Flame Guard. Very expensive, but very... Ooh, actually very difficult to keep alive. Undead has upsides and downsides. But yeah, really cool. Really very cool. Low morale does leave you open to a lot of horrible things, especially fear play. And if you have a lot of people rout, you cause what is called a hit point rout. So if half of your army is dead or retreating, the other half is more likely to want to retreat as well. Right, so I like you, Cissvath. I did write you down, right? Of course I did. Shangri-La. The Citadel of Lust. We've got the pale ones. Fire, Earth, Glamour, Weak Nature. Surprisingly apt pale one here. Big, chunky, size 6 is an unfortunate size, but good protection, passable skills, a poison spear. Ew, it's not particularly good. I mean, the weapon isn't good, the rest of them seems fine. Massive lowland cleric. Battle axe, 3 paths, sacred. Level 2 priest, can get another path as well. I don't think pale ones are epitome of lust. Do these things even have genitals? I thought the big problem was they live a long time underground and they just kind of die out because they got nothing to do. Also, they broke their own seal, which caused their fated end, and their end was humans coming down and just replacing them. But the humans did venerate the Pale Ones. This is according to the Greater Dominion's lore, and this game does have a greater lore, which is based on real-world history, existing fantasy, mythology, and sometimes just fever dreams of the Swedish developers. But the Pale Ones are cool, but very sad, because they have a doomed fate. They also have a unique god pretender chassis, which is relating to their doomed fate. Can we actually see that? Who are these guys? Shangri-La. Yeah, here it is. This is it. This is their golden pillar. When the earth was formed, the Pantocrator placed a huge pillar at the root of the earth as foundation for the creation, and endowed it with vast powers. In time, the pillar was discovered by a cavern-dwelling people. They began to worship the pillar. Over millennia, they gave it devotion and trust. The pillar became sentient and wise, and foresaw the fate of the race that had given it consciousness, and it was saddened with grief. The Pantocrator disappeared. The pillar decided it would change the fate of those born underneath and have them forge their own destiny. So if you play with the Pale Ones, you can alter their twisted fate, but you can also make them go through with the fate. They have a special decision to break the seals, which will give them power, but cause long-term downsides, and you know you've just sealed their fate to death. Anyway, interesting. If you play as a later age, you play as the more human-focused part of the cavern dwellers, and then you have statues of these Pale Ones, and the statues can be brought to life and brought into fighting, and they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Really cool. So lore-wise and mechanic-wise, the Pale Ones are some of the more interesting, and they are called... I'm looking for the Vanilla Nation here. Can I even remember their name? Yes, I can, because they are called Agartha. Friends of the Troglodytes, apparently. They can go into water. This is in the Middle Age, so they've already started having little human-esque things invading their space. As you can see, it's like more and more humans and fewer Pale Ones. Very cool. At least one of the devs' day jobs is teaching, something to remember when you are strip mining for virgin blood slaves. Well, naturally. Gotta pay homage. Right, so we were talking about Shangri-La. Don't think I want to play as them, but I did want to highlight that despite they look big, dumb, lumbering creatures, lore-wise and mechanic-wise, they are quite cool. Beyond that, we have Kraheim, Splendor of the Master Swamp Necroman. Necroman? I think we ran out of space here, or maybe it is Necroman. Jotuns and Zots have come together with a love for cold. Ew, Sacred Zot. Less ew, Sacred Jotun with loads of throwing axes. Well, 4 of them, but they hit like trucks if they ever hit. He's got a short sword, he's scared of lightning, and we've got Death 3 Mage, who's ridiculously expensive, but also cheaper in death scales. But death scales is assigning yourself to death unless you win and win quickly. And this one can turn into a were hyena. I cannot be the only one wondering, what is a were hyena? Werewolf, were-jaguar, were-hyena. A were-hyena is one of those powerful totemic spirits. The hyena was called by lion and other spirits to bring the sun and heat closer. I skipped to the end. By mere presence, it will upset the populace and cause unrest. Increases unrest every month. Okay, well, it's a consideration, right? One that will be cast aside. I'm not very excited by Jotuns overall. Very easy counter, very simple enemy. They hit like trucks, sure, but zap, zippity zap, take a dirt nap. How about the Burgerheim? Who wants a burger? They're humans together with primates. I do quite like primates. The Clover Eidolon. What is it, Final Fantasy 9 now? He's got 4 survival, the good survival, javelins, falchions, surprisingly good skills for a primate. Coming together with great strength, awkward size, good protection, good hit points. Even though he's just covered in fur. Reasonable costs as well. Frontliner question mark? He could hold a line, but he's so awkwardly large. However, awkwardly large isn't a problem if you have size 4 units that fill the gaps, like the Bandar Champion here. fairly standard things here, except for the fact that he's got really good protection. So you two together would make quite the front line, but who does the killing in that aspect? Maybe not elite skirmishers. Although this is some low-cost alternatives for having a mediocre front line. Lower hit points, lower protection, good defense skill, but that's just the kite shield talking. This, I suspect, does the killing, right? Pegasi are powerful. Ooh, but protection 3. Riding one of these things gives you good defense skill, but with a throwing axe and a spear, this does not kill. Do you kill, Blue Knight? Enchanted spear and the throwing axe of weakness. Hit by this axe, you become... Mages of Death Path have increased magic resistance against this particular kind of weapon. Just causes weakness, and I'm not actually sure what weakness means. Is that the permanent weakening or something else? Kite shield, pretty so-so overall. This guy still doesn't do the killing, so maybe magic has to do the killing here. You're on a horse, but you float? Fit. The Hand of Ghost 4. Or Tor? Hand of Frost Tor. Jor? I don't know, I can't read these fancy letters here. Anyway, we've got a lot of paths going for them. Death 3 out the get. Go with recruitment point 4 though. Ooh, Death 2, but he's old. Old people are an encumbrance problem. Inspirational Axe Master Primate Man. Awkward with the 90 leadership because you can't set formations there. Can't do line formation, can't do sparse line formation, double line formation. It's okay, I do like the monkeys. Not so keen on humans, but that's a simple point in Dominions. Humans tend to get the raw end of the stick here. These are some amazing magic paths. So 3 water, 3 death, 3 nature, with the possibility of a 4 or a cross path. Really good. It's a shame they are recruitment capital only. Sacreds are not so hot though. Not sure I'm sold on these guys. How about Atlanteans on polar bears? So once again, the game tempts me with units on bears. You might even be better than the other guy. Defense skills strangely lacking for someone mounted on a bear. But yes, Meteoric Glaive 19 protection on the back of an ice bear is something else. Meteoric Trident is here. Got the Ice Blade with Ice Armor 2. Oh man, now this is a sacred right here. I just wish you had some kind of aura, but we could give him an aura. Size 3, so we could actually have you side by side with the Ice Bear unit. But then we could also have the Shambler. Shambler only has a fist though. This one does not though. This one's got a couple of armor, they're not armor piercing, but they are pincers. Reasonable armor. Give him the clamps. Yeah, I could make a good front line out of these two. And once again, we have the Glaive Lord. Inspirational mages at the wazoo. I'd be totally won over by this if we hadn't just seen a very similar nation that we've already added to the list. Heretic. Very cool. And last two, we've got Ishasa lizards. Look like unremarkable lizards. This one's got that protection problem that you often see on chariot units. Pike and Javelin, fairly unremarkable sacred unit here. Death 3, Fire 3. Okay, good. They got 2 here as well. Incredibly good pathing. Notably, they don't get the +2 on their starting magic, do they? Yeah, so you're not going to get a Death 5 out of the gate. But these are phenomenally powerful mages. Not even that expensive, really. Upkeep is high, but 350 gold for a right out of the gate level 3 mage. One that gives resource bonus as well. So you can choose sailing, resource bonus, or supply bonus is inherent with a nature mage. So wow, these are amazing mages. Also fire and nature out of the path with you. Really inexpensive nature mage who transforms into a great bear. And that's going to be significantly better to keep him alive. And you also do Great Bear transformation. Do you all transform? You do not. All those resources mean you can crank out a lot of units, but your rank and file is pretty poor. Iron Khopesh, Great Club, a Mace, a Pike. Good, strong nation for magic, though. By a good long way. Also prefer heat scale 2, and you can make it 3. Yeah, these guys are strong. Real strong. I'm trying to think what can be best done with that death magic, because these guys you can't spam out so hot. Capital only, recruitment point 4. So using death in combat, not such a big idea. But there are many other nice big spells you can do with this nature fire access. The crummy little guy might be a bit harder to make work with fire. You can work with nature. Interesting, but not one we'll play as. Who is our last one? The Tula, the Graveyard of Silver. What do we got here? We've got Cavern Wights. Nasty, disgusting, rotting old pale ones. Ew. They're reanimators, though. This leans heavily into the undead. They've got Earth, Death, and Blood. There's Death 3 out of the gate as well. And look at that. It could be a Death 4 or even 5. Powerful. Expensive. Even the upkeep cost is really high with you. Reanimator Priest is based on Priest level, of which you have 2. But there's no way I'd waste your talents doing Reanimator stuff. But I believe that means all of the Priests can reanimate. Is that right? Where's our crummy... Yeah, there we go. So you can crank out these guys to do a lot of reanimating. We did a run like that before, so I wouldn't want to do that again, but it's interesting to see that's an option here. And we've got the mystery pick here. He could be anything. And he'd be pretty good. Pretty great. Wow, look at this. A Sacred Research Mage. Very cost effective. All the undead stuff has 100 different counters to it, but just leaning into the undead on its own is a very powerful way forward, especially when you've got Leadership 150 with 50 on top for the undead and the demons. And your Sacred here, massive spongy hit point pool, decent magic resistance for undead, a chill aura around them, whilst being cold resistant, amphibian. Wow. Dark power as well. This is powerful. This is incredibly powerful. And like I said, you can banish these guys away with priests, but that magic resistance is very, very good. And with that chill, these guys spread cold and they kill inside it. These guys are really good. Really, really good. All right, let's slam you down then. What is your name? You're Tula. Tula. Tula has Earth, Death, Blood, Cavern Wights, high magic resistance, big spongy Sacred. It's a hell of a Sacred. Look at that strength. Oh, I was looking. Obsidian Glaive striking for 41, and he doesn't have the usual attack skill problems that pale ones do, so he will likely hit and he will likely kill whatever he touches, even if it's ethereal or invincible, because magic damage ignores both of those things. And Dark Power 4 means if it's dark, that's suddenly hitting for 45 damage. Maybe 46 or 7, given it's two-handed. It gets a bonus on top of the strength. Good protection. What's the downside to this guy? 6 is an awkward size. He's not that expensive, and his upkeep is pretty low. His magic resistance is pretty good, although the rank and file are better, funnily enough. Attack and defense could be better, but you know how you make that better? You give him Blood Surge. Oh, he killed something by looking at it. Suddenly this is boosted up to 15-15? 14-14? Do their eyes not work well in light? They work perfectly fine in light. In fact, he doesn't care. Spirit Sight makes it possible to see into the spirit realm and see the true essence of beings. Units with Spirit Sight get no penalties from darkness. And they can see invisible unit. And that goes for light as well. He doesn't care about light. He doesn't need to eat. You cannot poison him. You cannot freeze him. But of course that means there are ways around it. You can lightning strike this guy to death. You can set him on fire and he will die. Cold aura does not protect you from the heat. He even has a siege bonus, so he tears down walls better. Because he's undead, he doesn't suffer from encumbrance. Unless he's casting spells, but this guy ain't casting spells. His map move is high. I guess the main downside is that he's expensive. Yeah, exactly. Berserk, Blood Surge, Blood Bond. These guys don't die. If you go way over the top and you also add regeneration... Hang on, that won't affect the undead, right? No, I think its spirit form aren't affected by regeneration, but the undead can? I forget. I really forget, but I think... I can't remember. I'd have to check. But yeah, if you also add any... Hold on. Regeneration? Regeneration? Oh, I thought we had nature mages. If we did, then... I really can't remember if the undead are affected by regeneration. Anyway, this guy is monumentally powerful. As part of an already monumentally powerful lineup of troops. Main downside is they're quite expensive. Do we have anything inexpensive then? 26 hit point, 11 protection, Ogre Spear Champions. Probably pretty good for expansion. Really rather cheap. But wouldn't you just rather have units that don't die in general? Yeah, because this Harpoon Champion, he'll get the job done even better. Flails. Do flails hit twice? Yeah, they do. Okay, then but does it ever land a hit with attack 10? Actually, attack 11, take into account the additional thing. Okay, right. Man, this nation has options. And they're good options. Regen works on any undead that isn't lifeless. Yes. Okay, so regen on top of that would make these guys damn unstoppable. Very powerful nation, so probably an interesting one to fight against. Anyway, we looked at all the nations now. Once we go beyond this, we're actually looking at nations that were written, slaved over by our beloved Swedes that live in a garage and piece this game together. Very well, I might add. Question is, which one will we play as? I think we'll just fight against the other ones. But aren't there a lot of them? We could just do a very big game. That would last a long time. I'd need something like a whole week to do it. If I had all of these nations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's no way I could meaningfully have a fight against 11 of them. So how about I randomly select, as in using the random generator, we select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Alright, so randomly take 5 of them this time. And then randomly take the other... Can I even count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take 5 of them this time. 5 of them the next time, randomly. And then fight against them, because we'll be playing as one of them. I won't play as Gonder this time, but I'll play as one of the other ones. And... this is the part where you, as the viewer, actually have to pay attention, because we're going to have one relook back through them. Choose your favourite and vote for it. I'll put a vote up as soon as we've been through them. Can we fight Gonder? Yes. We'll fight against Gonder, but we won't be playing as them on the first turn. I do want to play as Gonder. They look so cool. Really cool. Voting as points or people? Yes. Alright, so let's take it from the top again. So I'm interested in Zishdod, the Bamboo Circle. So these are Avites with regenerating bears and Fey Riders. So we're going to have these wonderful flower vindicators, regenerating their hit points, holding up a pretty good front line, smashing everything with morning stars, whilst our magical Fey guys go around killing. And we have access to nature and blood and death mages through our larger-than-life Avim people. If that interests you, vote for Zishdod. I'll put up the vote once we've been through them all again. Ithsus is the next one. And Ithsus are the old men and lizard shock troops with claymores. So I have a dream. The dream is these ancient old Terrariuses cramming themselves very tightly together in formation, smashing things to death with maces, having all-around passable skills, all the while we flank and destroy enemies with claymore-wielding lizards. On top of that, we have earth and astral access on the magics, which does give us nice things, I believe, like regenerating golem guys that could act as my stand-in wraith lords. So, good magics ability there, but I want my old man frontline. If you want old men in your life, vote Ithsus. Next up is Akato, some unremarkable Kalians. If you want unremarkable people to be played as, vote for these winged individuals. Very weird setup with the limited recruitment guys for much of them. Otherwise, a fairly unremarkable katana-wielding, lightning-striking sacred with the so-called invincible apostle. Not as invincible as he advertises. But we have air and we've got nature, so we can actually electrocute our enemies to death while actually healing off the things that we do get afflicted with nature. Next up is Discount Cetus. Its CSI is Lizards that Trample and have loads of skellies. Here we are. We've got a fairly good chariot guy who can go around and squish enemies. Anything he can't squish, he smashes with his halberd. And on top of that, we have got skeletons. Access to a fair amount of skeletons. Also Angry Heretic Hate Peer as one of our mages. Next up, we have Altaro. Wait, I'm going the wrong way here. No, we have a Death Inn. Death Inn. Man, I made too long of a list here. We've got the fireballs, we've got the half-men. What's the thing here? We've got expansion centaurs, so sacreds, and some interesting fire and death mages. So if you love centaurs to an unhealthy degree, we've got some very strong ones that will probably be used throughout the run, even if there is a bit of pivoting into the smaller Warden of Fire and Fire Resistance, and this very interesting death-mounted golden horse guy, as well as a lot of fire being dropped by the Senior Brimstone Ravager. Although we have other fire prospects there, so don't cast your vote just yet, because next up is Melse. Atlanteans, really interesting Atlanteans here. If you wanted to see the meteoric, glaive-wielding, bear-riding champions of the sea, here they are. Plenty of options for going into water, plenty of options for thugging out this beast of a commander as well. On top of that, we'll have access for fire and glamour and water. You don't see me playing with glamour much. That could change here, because we could use darkness, since we have dark vision. 'Tis an option. Next up, we have Altaro this time. Do you like crabs? Do you like the idea of midgets riding around on mechanical mosquitoes biting the backline to death? If so, this might be the nation for you. Everything is a walking sushi platter in armor around here, but we have an almost brokenly powerful sacred unit here who's ethereal out the gate, untouchable even if you get through the ethereal with massive protection, and he uses his pincers and his trident to end your day. On top of that, we have some midget mages and a crabby mage, and the crabby mage is also accompanied by a tainted earth elemental, or so we're told. We didn't see that in action. Next up is Emut, Abyssians and Fossil Giants. I will not make them an option for you, because I played as Abyssians last time, so forget that. We'll fight against them. Cissvath is next. We're getting to the ones that we saw very recently now. Cissvath is right here. Do you like undead people who burn incredibly hot? That's not the incredible one. Here we go. Heat power 6. Everything will melt if they get to this guy, and if they do get to this guy, well then, that isn't going to happen because it has to get through a load of flame guards who will also melt you, shank you with golden swords, be sacred themselves, and resist damn near everything. This is hot. This is hotter than Abyssia. And being undead, we don't really care about the heat either. Do you love the heat? Vote Cissvath. Finally, up for bat, we'll have Tula, the ones we just looked at. If you want this monstrous, rotting, saggy body doing nasty things to all the other races, then vote for the undead Cavern Rites. We're going to tear everything apart just by looking at them with these obsidian glaives. On top of that, strong magical access, reanimating, death, earth, blood. The options are ours. I say ours, but the option is yours. Because now we need to put it to vote. So hold on, because that'll take a flow-breaking moment. Make poll. New poll. Who do we play as? As capitalized, because we'll be playing against a random assortment of the others. So, will it be Zishdod? Bears. Ithsus? Old Men? Will it be Akato? Flying guys. Not the only flying guys, but there we are. Will it be Yes. Who are the trampling lizards? Does it not give me enough space? I can't even put an end on that. Wait a second, don't tell me the poll is limited to 5 options. Oh no. Oh god, no, I can only select 5? Oh geez, then I have to select 5. Okay, well then I gotta trim this list down then. I quite like the regenerating bears, and I quite like the old men. I'm gonna get rid of the flying guys. I'll get rid of the trampling lizards then. Ugh, only 5? That's Ooh, you need tournament format here. Yeah, tragedy is certainly striking here. There are external pole sites. Yes, there are. Yes, there are. But I'm already half-typed this through, so I'm just going to drop it off. I will add, certainly, Milse. Bear Riding Thug. We'll put on the crab. Yeah, okay. We'll put in the crabs. Emut for crabs. Wait, that wasn't crabs. Emut was the Abyssians, and we're not doing those. Altaro is crabs. Atlaro. Crabs. And then finally, because we only get 5, I guess I'll put down Tula. Cavern Whites. You can vote more if you feel like it, and you're going to get 3 minutes to decide, starting right now. At least I hope that's running just right now. Alright, so since we had to slim down the vote again, let's have a look once more at the options. So we've got Zishdot here, got the Avites, got our Bear Rider here with the Flower Vindicator. He regenerates and he uses his Morning Star. We've got Ithsus, if you like old men. We've got our Triarius going in there, packed into a tight formation with our Shock Troop Lizard Swordsman. Next up is Milse with the Bear Riding Thug. That's a fair bit up here. There we go. Meteor Glaive on a bear. Atlaro is up, and those are the crabs. There's also a lot of love for the crabs coming in here, surprisingly. Perhaps people want to see the mechanical mosquito ridden by a midget in action. I hope it's not as disappointing as it's probably going to be at that kind of cost, but at least, well, actually, that's quite a high upkeep. Maybe I should have rethought that one. And then, of course, we have Tula for our rotting friends here. Big, fat, rotting monstrosity. Milk Slinger is in there to say that they love old men. Love might be going a bit too far, but there's certainly a penchant there, and I wouldn't mind seeing them in action, but it's up to you what we see here. Damn, I can't vote. Stupid Twitch, it just says error loading module. Don't worry, I'll vote for you. What did you want to vote for there, Fryhits? Because I have one vote that I can throw in. And this will be the nation that we play as next time against a random assortment of the others. Also, we're going to build the nation here once it's chosen. But it's up to you to choose it. Fryhits wants Tula. I will put my vote on Tula for you. But for some reason I can't vote multiple times, if only. The Bear Riding Fish with Glamour. Come on. The Bear Riding was Malaise, was it not? Or Milse? Wait, we had a Bear Riding Fish with Glamour? Well, I could add Glamour, couldn't I? Was there another one that had the Glamour on top of it? Well, it doesn't matter. Those aren't the ones we're looking at. Ice Armor, though. Ice Armor, so good. If only I had points to dump, says Tarkin. If only you had gambled more correctly on our previous opportunities. It looks like Old Men and Zishdod's Bears are out, so we'll have one quick look at them to sign them off with. So, Zishdod, looks like we're not doing you. I guess you looked a bit too vanilla for people. And Ithsus, no, the Claymore Lizard guys did not win people over. Unless there's a sudden upset, it looks like we're going to be playing with Atlaro and the Crabs. Is there a last-minute possibility for you to believe in the Cavern Whites or the Bear Riding Thug? Seems not. The votes are not changing, even at the last moment here. Can we play those nations too? This is a good assortment of nations, so I suspect even though the other one's lost, we will play as some other ones going forward. So, Atlaro. Definite winner here. Very clean, definite winner. Let's see you once more. So, crustaceans, hobergs. If we make a bless, it has to be based around this guy. This guy is so strong. So incredibly strong. Ethereal out the gate. He's expensive, but his upkeep cost is very agreeable for what he is and what he does. He does kill, and we pack 2 to a square. So one of the problems often with units that are hard to kill is that they don't do a lot of killing. But the Pincer is fine, Metal Trident is fine, his encumbrance is not unreasonable. I guess one of the downsides is he doesn't wear a helmet, but being a crab, he already has immense natural protection, so... And yeah, that ethereal to boot means this guy is pretty much our expansion strategy. This guy is pretty much worth more than all the other regular crabs that we have, because he's lower upkeep cost due to being sacred. And the glaive is actually a long weapon. The main downside, I suppose, is his skills aren't very high. But what if we boosted those skills? Let's see what we can do here. So, let's design a build for this. These guys are certainly going to be doing expansion for us. We need to crank them out. They're expensive in recruitment points, and not so for resources, though. So we definitely want order for recruitment point boosting. And we don't care so much about productivity, but a bit would be nice. Preference in heat is non-existent. These guys are not cold-blooded. They are amphibian, though, meaning we'll be going into the waters, and we won't be so badly affected there. Wait, did I see someone that isn't amphibian? Well, the Hallbergs aren't, but that's not a problem. And the mechanical mosquito, strangely enough, can't go in water. How bizarre. Yeah, so the midgets will have problems, but we have problems with midgets. Not sure about the rest of these, so what are we looking for? What kind of crab would you like to be served, chat? We have a lot of different ways we can build our crabs. Perhaps it would make it easier if I showed you some options. Because if you're not familiar with dominions, what you do before you even play is you design your pretender god, who will have deep-reaching consequences for your entire nation. First off, you choose blesses. You can choose 0 or you can choose as many as you can cram in, and these are things that will make your sacred units so much better. For example, I could add an air shield to my units, meaning that 80% of all projectiles, including magical ones, just get bounced away harmlessly. We could make them able to swim across rivers. We could make them have more power to keep on fighting. We could make their weapons magical, so they destroy ethereal things. We could make them undying, so even if you kill them, they keep living, and you got to kill them for real. We could make their weapons imbued with poison. We could make it so that when you kill someone, they become stronger. That's Blood Surge. And I gotta say, getting around the low stats of these guys, blood surging might not be a bad idea. Defense skill is already crap, though. I could make them Berserk. Berserk does increase attack skill, but it negates morale, which is already good anyway, so would we even want that? No, not Death Explosion. That is an option, of course. One could go here, Death Explosion. Blessed units will explode into a huge fireball when they die. It deals 10 armor-piercing damage on an area of effect of 4 plus the size of the creature. Our creatures are size 5, so that's an area of effect of 9. I think that's 9 squares, not a 9 radius circle around them. But imagine. 9 squares doesn't sound right, but oh well. Yeah, I don't want Death Explosion on these guys, because they would end up killing each other with a Death Explosion. What are our mages like again? Our mages are... Well, our big, super expensive one is water, 2 earth, 2 blood, with a random in something, including glamour. But he's old as balls, so I'm not sure I want this guy so much. Then again, I hate the midgets as well. And the midgets are our only other option, aren't they? Yeah, so our main research mage is probably going to be this apprentice of the Enraged Citadel. He is Earth 2, so I could deploy him in grim situations, and that means he could actually cast Self-Protection to maybe not die in combat. This guy gets deployed, he does Earth boosting, or whatever it's called, to become Earth 3, and then he could just shred the enemy with a bunch of projectiles. This guy is the same, but with added blood. Is that worth the extra cost? 140 upkeep versus 112 upkeep, so that's a boost of about 30-ish%, maybe 25. With a similar increase in research ability. Tough call. Maybe I go magic scales and just boost this guy so he researches better. This guy, I don't really know how to deploy him in battle. I don't think we're going to be doing blood things, but I don't often do blood things unless I'm playing as the blood-drinking monkeys, in which case it's all about strip mining for virgins, as we say. What weaknesses do we have to get around on these guys, and what would really strengthen them? I don't really care so much about defense skill. With Protection 22, we don't need defense skill. So we certainly want to boost that attack skill so we actually land our hits. Attack skill is a relatively cheap thing to buff by +1, only costs fire. But do we want fire? Could I make use of fire? With 26 hit points, hit point regeneration is also quite good. There is a very typical build, which is Blood Bond, so that everybody takes damage when somebody does, and then mix that together with Berserker. So a lot of nations end up going Berserk, but I think High Morale can resist that Berserking. And Berserker will boost their attack power and their strength by +2. Which is okay, but it's kind of expensive and it's incarnate only. I'm not sure I want to go incarnate only. I'd like something that's kind of low level and works without the god, because I do not mind shoving my god into a prison for a while. Yeah, we can make them imprisoned and get a lot of points to play around with and make some minor boosts here. And then we end up building quite a bit of this. That said, our paths aren't very good, are they? Water, earth, blood, glamour. The blood is unlikely to be used much. Yeah, because these guys are a waste to go blood hunting with if I'm wasting their earth too. So essentially we're earth. Earth and a tiny speck of water. That's going to be hard to branch out with, but maybe we'll find some good stuff. Could you make them as indestructible as possible, then lean into the crab theme? Indestructible crabs. They're already nigh on indestructible. 22 protection is massive, and that's hard to boost any further, frankly. Ethereal is already there. You don't even have to pay for an Ethereal Bless. So if you're not a magical weapon, you're already whiffing 75% of your shots. I don't think it's worth investing in that defense skill. It's already low. It's difficult to polish a turd in this game. But could we make them more unkillable? We could do things with hit points or anything that makes them not die or regenerate. So options there are Undying. Undying will add 2 extra hit points to them. We could just add regular hit points to them. But I think regeneration would work pretty well. It's quite expensive. Gets me nature access, though, and I do love nature. You say you're earth with water, so that's mud? You're mud crabs! I fought mud crabs tougher than you, says the man that's fought the army that I'm making here. Don't play with glamour often. Luck. Luck means they would dodge a deathly blow 70% of the time, but I don't think that's relevant here. Blessed units are shrouded in nightmares. Nearby enemies will see the nightmares as if they were real and likely flee from battle. Fear +5 on all of my sacreds. Blessed units appear beside their actual location and are very difficult to hit in melee. Attacking units have their attack skill reduced by 5. That's pretty powerful, but that is incarnate only. How about Blur? Blur would make them harder to hit. All sacred units gain lots more experience as well. It's quite interesting. Blood Surge. You have access to blood, which will compensate for the earth theme. Blood Surge is quite tempting. Might make that defense not too terrible, but the attack skill is very good there. That means I have to take blood on my pretender when I already have blood access and no intention of using blood. That feels like a bit of a waste. But there are plenty of bloody options to be had. Here are all the magic paths available to our gods. We've got the Blood Freak Lord. We've got the Blood Man-Eater. We've got the Anunnaki of Love and War. She's not blood, but everyone loves that Anunnaki. Oh, right, we've got this guy here. Moloch. Moloch the Feared. He brings in the fire and the blood. He's a combat caster with certain dominion strength. Making these crabs unkillable. I mean, what currently kills them? Magical things that negate their armor, and that can be negated by buffing up hit points, something massive. Reinvigoration, strength of the earth. Larger. No, I don't want to make them larger. That's dangerous to do, because they're already size 5. If they were any bigger, they wouldn't be able to fight shoulder to shoulder. So we definitely don't go larger. We had a good successful run with larger before. Yeah, we had giants, so we made them even more giant. Blessed units gain resistance to fire and shock by 10. That's pretty good, because that's a good way to really hurt them. Costs a lot of earth, which again we already have access to, though. Well, ooh, wait a second. I don't play with quickness often enough. +2 attack and defense skill. Heavy on the water, but imagine these crabs being so very quick. Yeah, I quite like that idea. So quickness means that this guy's going to end up with attack skill 12, defense skill 11, and he hits twice in his turn. If we coupled that with Blood Surge, they would very quickly run up, smash, and kill everything. And they would just end up as crab blenders. Yes, pretty cancerous, one could say, Baron. You know what? I never use the Quickness Bless, so let's do it. Quickness needs water. Who is the best water chassis we can have? We can get this big dumb dragon. Don't like big dumb dragons. Dum-dums. Also, they fight with Frosty Breath, and we're not cold resistant, are we? No, and absolutely not. Could still take the dragon, but he also encourages sloth, and I don't want sloth. I need productivity. Who else does water around here? How about the Anunnaki of Sweet Waters? You don't lean into blood, though. You give me some earth, which we don't care all that much about. It needs to be water, though. It gets very expensive to stack things further. Could go for the Oracle as well. Probably too expensive without Hellbless. I disagree. I think we could make it work. I don't really like the Oracle. Statues are boring in a lot of ways, but I do like this idea of incredibly cancerous crabs. That Blood Surge is expensive, but let's have a look at this. Quickness will require one bit of magic, and I don't mind having magic. Magic is good. Give me the quickness, give me the Blood Surge. And then we could even grab... It'd be nice to have Blur. That does make them very unkillable. Although Heroism... Can I stack Heroism? Oh, wow. You know what? Heroism might not be so bad. They'll gain experience very rapidly, and that will boost their attack and defense skill. Even just 2 levels of Heroism is tons more experience for them. I can get behind that. I'm overpaying here massively, so we got to drop stuff down. Either I imprison our god, that means quickness takes a long time to come online, or we do this. Hot or cold? What would we rather be? Well, given the choice, I'd rather have the heat. What's our map move anyway? Map move is pretty poor, actually, so we are going to be slow to move around. Cold is a good complement to water. In what way is that a complement to... Oh, right, because we have water access. So I could do biting cold stuff. We're already slow. Being slower isn't going to change anything. And I guess I go for a little bit of poor luck. Sucks not to have growth, but we knew we wouldn't be getting growth. We go for mega cold. I guess so. I guess we can deal with that. Alright, this isn't too bad a build, really. It will take anything from 9 to 15 turns for our useless statue to come online. But when it is online, our units will be blessed with quickness, and that's phenomenally powerful. Beyond that, there'll be blood surging and heroism. My problem with this build is that what do we do outside of relying on these guys for doing everything? Because eventually, we're going to come across an enemy that can zap us to death or burn us to death. Oh, that's great, because burning will be much harder to do against these guys with cold scales. That's good. Anyway, eventually this can be countered. Rather easily, frankly. If I knew I was fighting against this, I would tailor-make a way to destroy this cheaply. You need more bless points. Oh, right. Ah, crumbs. Oh, that is pretty bad. I don't want to drop the heroism, but I'm probably going to be dropping the heroism. Oh, this is good. We only needed 4 for Blood Surge. Oh, but then we definitely don't have the bless points. Isn't that funny? Alright, there we go then. That still works. Plus it gives us extra glamour on our god. Feels really bad having a god that has the same magical paths that our mages do. Water, earth, blood, but this works pretty well for us. Bless points are based on the amount of magical paths you add to your god, and those are spent on getting these in addition to the prerequisite of having the magical paths on the god and having any certain scales. So we need to have at least one magic scale to get quickness. This misfortune could hurt us quite badly, but I'd rather have that over death scales. Or losing my order, because order is necessary to get the recruitment points for our translucent exemplar. All in all, this is okay. But like I said, we need an answer for when the exemplars don't kill everything. They kill almost everything. I want to get these Hobergs on their mechanical mosquitoes operational as well. Cost-effective wise, they are nothing on these guys, but they are... We gotta have them for the meme value, right? Baron would flay me alive if I didn't. When it comes to researching, this apprentice will be our research mage. He will do everything in most places, and he's the mage who will be cranking out the most. But we need to have an idea of what to use the King of Enraged Citadels for. He's our main combat mage. He can survive very well in combat. Surprisingly low spellcasting endurance. Yeah, because you think with Protection 17 he must be wearing heavy armor. No, he's just wearing a robe. It's just that his shell-like body is so powerful. He also summons that elemental. I want to know more about the elemental. Dom 6 Inspector Window. Let's clear up all this nonsense here. Tell me about... What's this guy's name again? King of the Enraged Citadel. King of the Enraged Citadel. Here we go. He gets an Ill Earth. A size 4 Ill Earth? Surely you're jesting. Surely you're jesting. That's a strategy in and itself. You only use 1 glamour, but you pay for stacking 4. Maybe lower it and buy a cheaper level 1 for the other magic schools. Is that actually cheaper for a statue? What's the statue's cost on new magic? It's 40 magic paths for that, so if I get rid of that and do something else, yeah, we're not getting the same mileage and we don't get the bless points, so no way. Remember, the magic paths get more expensive the higher you stack them, but you pay that 40 lump sum, so bang, 40 points. But then we stack more on top of that and it's only not much more. 16? Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, we want 4 on here. This is a good build. I'm happy with this. There are certainly things I'd be happier with, and we could do all that by imprisoning the god. If we throw the god in prison, we get 200 extra points to spend. We can fix our bad luck. We don't have to be freezing cold, but maybe I would just want 1 level of cold. We could even add some more magic stuff here. But that's another 24 turns, give or take, where our crabs are not blender crabs. So I do want them there. You could add regeneration to your bless. What, with 200 points? No. No, we could not. We could almost do it. I could drop some of the glamour for it, but I don't want to. Regeneration is its own beast, and I don't particularly want it here. Anyway, I'm perfectly happy with this. I won't save this, but I will make a screenshot so we can build this very rapidly when we go into our actual play of it. But I do want to check that Ill Earth. That was fascinating to me. So create another throwaway world, blah, 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 blah. Mid-age, and we are playing as, what was that nation's called again? Enraged Citadel? Altaro? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All praise Chai and whatever. Truly an honorary BR now? Yeah, that was longer than I thought. I thought it would maybe take an hour and a half, but it's been 3.5 hours. But I did want to thoroughly go through all of them. Although, in retrospect, why? I could have just made this decision myself in 20 minutes without talking about it and actually played some Dominions. That doesn't sound right, though. Right, I am keen to see King of the Enraged Citadel in action. So set him to recruitment. It'll take a couple of turns for him to appear. Huzzah! Here we are with Kitsune. Get in there. Now he's going to die, no question about it. But what I want to do is see his little pet. Well, I say little, it's size 4. It's only slightly smaller than he is. Pretty cool. That said, I suppose size 4 isn't as big as it used to be, but look at that, he's got reconstruction. You hit this thing, it grows back. I just don't think it's going to stand up to all of this. He's launching cold bolts at the enemy. This guy can actually trample these militia, but he won't, right? Yeah, no, he's going to get absolutely shredded. I think those guys would need some fluffing up. The crab looks kind of cute. Look, he's smiling. He kind of looks like Slippy Toad. How's he going to do in battle with a pincer that does not pierce and a bony glaive? Bony glaive of weakness. Yeah, I mean, he's hard to kill, but with this many people shredding him, he will die. Clear as day. Him and his robes. But okay, this is a nation we're going to be playing as. When do we do it? I don't know. I'll slot it into the schedule, which I'm pretty sure I have not actually sorted out for next week yet. But cheers for joining for the... I wouldn't even say theory crafting. We haven't crafted any theories. We just looked at the randomized nations. But this isn't a looking we'll have to do again for a while, because I want to run with quite a few of these nations, and these are ones we'll play around with in our coming runs, especially with Gonder. They might be who I play next. I want to check out these misshapen freaks. But we don't know how long the runs take. Could take 3 whole long days of sessions, might be done in 1. We'll find out. But that's a problem for future Jake. Just like tomorrow's, it's satisfactory. So until I'm back with that, it's a cheers and a cheerio.